Here, baby.
What you got, Mary?
Your stuff you left in there, honey.
Oh, did I? Oh, thank you, babes.
Here, you want to put that up?
Oh, it's. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Here.
Well, I don't really want it
shit.
here. Just set it. I don't want. I gotta do something, baby. Oh, I'm live now. Hello, everybody. I'm going live. Going live. All right, here we go. I'm just gonna post this on Facebook real quick, so that nobody can see it, just for fun. Going live now. Bada bing, bada boom. Oh yeah, and of course, if you don't wait for Facebook to catch up, it will not give you a thumbnail on your video. Yeah, I think it's already messed up. Oh, it did. Thank you, Fikebook. No, it didn't. Wow, of course it didn't. All right, so let me just check the live stream if I can figure out how to view on watch page. But no, I cannot. I guess I'll just have to go to my channel. I think they paid the software designers at Facebook, at YouTube, like $250,000 a year just to make our jobs harder by changing the positions of everything, just to keep us on our toes and to make sure that they have plenty of work to do in terms of designing websites and stuff. Yepper. So I hope you guys can hear me. If you could do me a favor, because I can't really see the chat right this second, but if you wouldn't mind, give the stream a thumbs up if you can hear it properly. I don't care if you don't like it or if you do like it or whatever. Just give it a thumbs up if you can hear it properly. And if you can't hear me, then give it a thumbs down. Should see 0 thumbs downs because you can't hear me. Right? So no lying on the thumbs downs. Where in the world is this stream? There we go. Thanks, YouTube, for changing crap around. And pretty soon they're going to force us to use the new stuff.
Save up to 50% off store-wide, plus get doorbuster deals like the Sealy mattress at $249, free adjustable bases, and Amazon gift cards up to $300. It's time to give yourself the gift of a great night's sleep.
All right, YouTube, what's up, buddy? Glowbusters, I'm assuming that's Bob. What's up, Bob? They paid the... Oh, wow, I am loud. Software. Why do I sound so silly, you guys? Why didn't y'all tell me I sound so silly? Yeah, anyway, I think this headset's pretty good. So let me tell you a story about my headset. Alright, so I knew that I was going to do a stream today. So yesterday, Black Friday, I went to, oh god, yes, Walmart. I did. I went to Walmart and I got a $100 set of headphones for $25. Pretty good deal, right? And I was even, I had the forethought to check and see if it would work with this laptop, which only has the red and green 3.5mm jacks, one for the headset, one for the microphone, okay? However, the microphone only had one 3.5mm jack that combines the headset and the microphone, so it's one 3.5mm jack. So, I went to see if Walmart had a splitter, which they did. It had a 3.5mm jack with 2 female ends and 1 male end. And of course I get that home, check it out, plug it in, and realize I needed 2 male ends and 1 female end. So the wrong kind of threesome, but that's what I needed, you know what I mean? Right, so anyways, I get it working Friday night. It works, even though I can't use the headset at the same time as the speakers because I only have one output either way, right? By the way, the thing that I bought at Walmart also had an adapter for my guitar amp, so I can plug that in to my headset. So that's pretty sweet. So anyway, I tested it out Friday night, and even though I couldn't use the headset, it's still fine. It'll work till I can get something else. So when I start the stream, of course, nobody can hear me. It's not actually working properly, and there's nothing I can do about it except waste everyone's time and make a bit of a fool of myself. So that's exactly what I did. So I must have called around 20 places, you know, Big Lots, Walmart, this one, that one, the other one, and really I tried to call the closest places, and there's a bunch of them. So I end up walking to the store, which is pretty far in the cold and wind, and I find a Bluetooth headset, which, hey man, Bluetooth will work. I don't have to worry about the, the analog audio jacks or whatever. It'll just go straight through the Wi-Fi or whatever, right? So I get the headset home, I turn it on, I download and install a driver updater for Bluetooth, and get it going. And guess what? This computer doesn't support Bluetooth. Like, what does that even mean? It's a laptop with Wi-Fi. I mean, maybe I don't know much about Bluetooth, but dude, I was kind of thinking that would work. So, of course, I take it back to where I got it, and I get another one. And I didn't even tell you the funniest part of the story. This is the whole reason I wanted to tell you guys this, is because of this part of the story. But you know what? It's also because I wanted to make sure everyone has a chance to pop in before we get to the meat of this thing. So let me finish the story. So when I got the first headset, I'm coming out of the store, and it's very windy, I think I mentioned, right? And I had 2 bags in my hand, 2 drinks, a cigarette, and the receipt, right, for the headset I just bought. And so, of course, as soon as I step out the door, the wind gusts up, like, severely, and the receipt just pops right out of my hand and flies like 50 feet forward into the parking lot. So, and it's hauling ass, and I run after it, and it's still hauling ass, and I'm catching up, gaining on it, and I'm about to get it to where I can put a foot on it, and it stops. And I go straight over it and overshoot it, and then I'm backstepping, and then the wind picks up again, and the thing's going forward 50 more feet. So finally I'm about to get it again, running, catching up, and I almost ran smack into the front of a car that was coming towards me in the parking lot. Good thing he saw me. He thought I was absolutely crazy, him and his buddy, and that is until he thought I was absolutely crazy until the receipt blew underneath his rear tire, and I said, "Stop! My receipt!" And I grabbed it out from under his rear tire and thanked him and walked off. So, yeah, and again, that was the one that turned out didn't work with the Bluetooth, so I had to walk back in the wind and da-da-da-da. And I definitely lost the coupon receipt the second time, so it was just a mess. So anyway, again, John the Morgile here, 11/30/2019, checking in for you for a Flat Earth video, Thanksgiving special. Even though it's not Thanksgiving, I know. I had to move on Thanksgiving, and so that went well, and I intended to do this earlier today. However, you guys probably already know that didn't work out so well, hence the headset story. And here we go. So, and I guess I better start pulling these websites back up. I had all this stuff pulled up this morning, of course. So let's just do one at a time. We're going to talk about some NASA news, because it's just, this is just always a gold mine. I mean, it's basically every day they're coming out with more nonsense. And if you just look at this stuff with a bit of a critical mind, it's just so ridiculous. Because, I mean, from our position, it is pretty easy. It's almost like, well, I don't want to say the RAPE word, but it's almost like that. Because it's just so easy, because we know that they're going to be lying no matter what, because that is what they do. If you're going to convince people that the flat and stationary Earth is a spinning ball in outer space, then you're going to have to be lying all the time. All right. So, latest NASA news releases. There was a couple of good ones in here earlier, so let's see if they're still here. All right. NASA to broadcast next space station resupply launch, November 27th, so I guess that already happened. NASA commercial cargo provider SpaceX is targeting 12:51 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, December the 4th, for the launch of its 19th resupply mission to the International Limobile, under contract with the agency. Right. So, these resupply launches, man, clearly they have to do this. Of course, it's not to resupply the Lyernauts in the Limobile. It's to pretend that they're actually spending all of our money on something of substance, right? So they have to launch giant, super expensive fireworks into the ocean, and then send us CGI composite images and faked space videos of ridiculously absurd astronauts sticking their hands through solid bars because of glitches, and placing hats onto tables that don't exist, and flying around on wires clearly, and doing all of the shenanigans like monkeying around in gorilla suits, because those resupply rockets that cost untold millions of dollars. Maybe we should look that up. So how much does NASA resupply launch cost? And I would imagine these are allegedly unmanned, right? Just as all of them definitely are unmanned. But how much does ISS resupply launch cost. And I guess this would be separate from the typical $52 million per day that NASA gets to fake space. So don't consider that. Just this is not in addition to that. This would be part of that. But it is interesting to see what these single launches cost. So for the first ISS resupply phase between 2012 and 2020, NASA estimates it will fly 31 missions with SpaceX, doing 20, and Orbital ATK-11 doing 20. Wait a minute, SpaceX doing 20? That sounds like a porn movie, dude. What? And Orbital ATK-11. SpaceX's launch price was considerably cheaper, and yeah, I think cheaper is probably a relative term here, than its rival $152.1 million per mission versus $262.6 million. Oh, really? So I guess this proves the capitalist point in spades, doesn't it? Right? The free market will always do things more efficiently and effectively than the government, right? Because the government spends thousands of dollars on toilet seats and hammers, But so $152 million to launch a bottle rocket into the stratosphere, right? And then out into the ocean where they all end up, clearly. It's very obvious. If you look at, just look at any of the profile shots of the rocket launches. The things are being launched into the ocean, okay? So that's not even a debate, right? Not even a debate. They're just so full of it. SpaceX price hikes will make ISS cargo missions more costly. Well, isn't that a bit of an oxymoron here? So the first Google result is about how much money SpaceX is saving compared to NASA, and then the second Google search result is SpaceX price hikes. Hey, that's so funny. That's another porn movie too. SpaceX price hikes will make ISS cargo missions more costly. Yeah, because SpaceX is one costly hoe, let me tell you. Alright, so back to the article here. Let me close that. Don't want to bog down my RAM with browser windows. Alright, so the second little lying-ass article from NASA here. NASA French space laser measures massive migration of ocean animals. This one I thought was funny. Right. So basically, all right, November 27th, 2019. I don't think I need to read the date that it was posted, do I? I don't think they need to put the date that it was posted because they're up and coming. What? Every night, under the cover of darkness, countless small creatures, from squid to krill, swim from the ocean depths near the surface to feed. This vast animal migration, the largest on the planet and a critical part of Earth's climate system, has been observed globally for the first time thanks to an unexpected use of a space-based, and I think that's a misspell of laser. I don't think it's a space-based lace, unless they're doing acid up there or something. No, it's a space-based laser, but NASA doesn't even know how to spell fucking laser. Well, isn't that just rich? Excuse the French, sorry, but my goodness. Like, you'd think if you're making $52 million a day, you could learn how to spell razor. I almost said it wrong. That would have been stupid. You could learn how to spell laser beams. Sharks with laser beams attached to their heads, NASA. NASA awards contract for construction of new R&D facility in Cleveland. Well, okay, wait a minute. Is that Cleveland of the Dagobah system? Cleveland of the Crab Nebula? Or Cleveland, Ohio? Like, what the hell is NASA doing constructing research and development facilities in Cleveland, right? So Google tells us that SpaceX is much more efficient and cost-effective than NASA because they're capitalists in the free market, right? However, NASA gets the contracts to construct R&D facilities in Cleveland outer space. Yeah. So they say NASA awarded a contract to Austin. Oh, wait a minute. Now do I seem stupid? NASA awarded a contract to Austin Building and Design. So wait a minute. How is NASA awarding contracts? Like, wow, I guess that comes out of their $52 million a day, or do they have some bonuses earmarked for this sort of thing? Because you have to have new R&D facilities in Cleveland outer fake space, right? But okay, so doing business as the Austin Company. Well, is that, like, who cares? So the Austin Building Company and Design, doing business as the Austin Company. because, the Austin building and design just wasn't enough. In Cleveland, Crab Nebula Outer Fake Space, to build a new aerospace communications facility at the agency's Glenn Research Center in Cleveland Outer Space. Right, so wow, that's just ridiculous, man. So NASA, they don't even do the building. They're getting ripped off by general contractors. So that's even worse. So like, not only do we have the typical bureaucracy involved with government projects where they literally spend, thousands of times more than the toilet seats are worth, for example. Like, if you do the auditing, what was it, the Pentagon? No, not the Pentagon. The Pentagon was like, what, $20 trillion in debt? There's not in debt. There's $20 trillion missing from the Pentagon's funds. So basically, there's accounting errors. They got audited for the first time ever, right? Pretty recently, like within the last year. And they lost $20 trillion. Like, try explaining that to your boss. Like, hey, boss, yeah, dude, I think I made a mistake. I lost a little bit of money. Yeah, how much money? Well, only about $20 trillion. Like, that's so absurd. But yeah, so let's definitely give more contracts, oversight to these government agencies who are the definition of ineptitude, ineffectiveness, and just assholes, right? But yeah, so NASA is gonna get ripped off by the general contractor. I would imagine the Austin company, because that's who doesn't do shit but gets paid the most for the building, is the general contractor. Basically, they make all their money by upcharging and making sure things pass inspection, which I get it, right? But is that really the best way to do things? NASA awarding contracts to general contractors who are, well, let's just say they're good capitalists, right? So not exactly a very effective way to spend. I wonder how much it's going to cost. So will they tell us? So maybe we can find that out. So let's look at this. I'm just really curious to see how much a new R&D facility in Cleveland Outer Space is going to cost NASA and the Austin Building Company, also doing business as the Austin Company. Oh, they're not going to tell you. So hold on, maybe I've got this search terms wrong. I mean, you wouldn't think that matters, right? Maybe they're trying to hide it from us. Maybe I should use a different search engine. Huh. Okay, and if I sound weird, you guys, I know I probably do. These headphones are very much noise canceling, so I can't hear myself. So, man, maybe I'll use one ear, but it keeps my ears so warm. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm thinking out loud. So how much, God almighty, really? Such a pain. How much is cost of NASA paste in Cleveland Outer Space? Glenn Torres, NASA, let's see. And I love how they don't put any links to their other pages in these little mini articles. Like, where did these guys learn how to design a website? High school? Like, where's the links to this, this stuff they're talking about? There are links on the very same NASA webpage to this thing. So, I don't know, man. Like, or they're just trying to bury the cost because it's going to be so astronomically high. Oh, that looks a lot like CERN, a particle accelerator. Credits NASA for the image there. And, our taxpayers, our tax dollars pay for NASA's budget, so I don't think they can copyright strike images of our stuff, right? Our live factories. Because again, particle colliders assume the whole model of atoms and molecules and electrons and protons and neutrons and, accelerating these little subatomic particles to very near the speed of light, trying to recreate conditions moments after the Big Bang, which never happened in reality. The thing is, though, in my estimation, my belief, my educated guess, my gut instinct, and yes, I would even say my bet, is that there is no such thing as atoms and molecules and subatomic particles and electrons and protons and neutrons and all of that stuff. It is fiction. It is fantasy. It is more of trying to, put a number on. I can't think. There's a better word for that, but put a number on creation. Put a number on particles. Put a number on solids. So basically, quantifying. There's the word I'm looking for. Quantifying physicality. That's what they're trying to do with atoms. They're saying, well, they'll tell you that the table in front of you, or the table in front of me, they'll say that it is mostly empty space. If you were to somehow get a microscope that's powerful enough to see at the atomic level, which there is no such thing, you would find that there is mainly empty space between sparsely populated atoms, right? That's what they're going to tell you. Now, there's no evidence for this. There's no proof of this. There's no proof for atoms. Never been a picture of an atom except for CG renderings, composites, and fakes, in my opinion. But, it's like this, man. If atoms don't exist and subatomic particles don't exist, then what the fuck can you do with a particle accelerator? Now, maybe they can do some things with it, okay? Maybe there's some sort of a magnetic resonance technology or a, sonic vibration technology, right? But certainly not, and this is according to me, this is according to John the Morgile, certainly not accelerating subatomic particles, okay? That is what I believe. All right, and prove me wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love to learn that CERN is not a giant money pit, just as NASA is. But I did a video maybe a couple years ago when there was this whole kerfuffle on the internet about CERN essentially melting down, right? And there was all these, I'll go ahead and say it, all these kooks going on YouTube and claiming that they had videos of CERN melting down, and it was basically the end of the world, and it was going to cause a chain reaction, a black hole here on Earth, and basically nothing ever came of it. And the video looked fake as hell to me. But, these are the types of people that are going through the data coming back from CERN. Now, here's the thing. If CERN's spitting out data from a computer, do you hypothesize that it could be possible that that data is merely simulated data, randomized simulated data? And I would answer a resounding yes. It absolutely could be simulated randomizing data. Now, the scientists who are interpreting that data will never in a million years consider that this multi-billion-dollar juggernaut of a thing is somehow a fake, a forgery, and the data is just simulated. They would never think that in a million years. They've spent millions of dollars on education to get to this point. They make millions of dollars, I don't know, every year or two to do what they do. And why would anybody waste that amount of time and resources and energy on faking a particle accelerator, right? Why? Now, when you realize from my point of view, it is to perpetuate the myth of atomic theory and many other things, but let's just say that, then it makes a lot of sense that they would continue dumping money into these things that have achieved, well, basically fuck all. Really, they have achieved nothing. You can't, maybe I'm wrong, but you really can't point to any practical, applicable technologies that are a direct fruit of CERN. And I would say the same thing for NASA. I mean, sure, according to them, they come out with anywhere from 500 to 2,800 new inventions every single year. But if you check the patents for these inventions, what you'll find almost all the time is that there's really not quite that many, and the ones that they do get patented are invented by people who are not astronauts. So that means they were absolutely not invented in space. So, I don't get it that NASA can somehow get all this money and then invent things on the ground, which seems a bit unnecessary to pay a space agency who's supposed to specialize in just space, right? To then, go on the ground, go on the ground and do their inventions. I mean, that just seems like, I don't know, it's kind of redundant. And unless you dig into it, well, people will say, well, NASA's doing a good job. NASA is inventing 1,600 new inventions every year, and look at the patents. But when you realize that it is not astronauts that are inventing these things, I don't think these bonehead astronauts could invent their way out of a paper bag, right? But yeah, man, it's like whatever. It's not going to happen. So don't you love this NASA lies news, man? It is just, I'm telling you, to me, it's so much fun just to read what they're trying to push on people because, man, they must know that their number is up, bro. Like if you are lying to the degree that NASA has, and so many people know that you're lying, and there's this little thing called the internet out there, dude, it's just a matter of time where even people who aren't flat earthers, man, they're gonna be like, dude, hey, you know what? These people are about certainly lying, right? About at least this, you know. Go back and watch my recent streams. I did one that was I covered it pretty in depth, the flat Earth, and I've got another video for it too. Flat Earth and international conspiracy, which basically shows that so-called space agencies all over the world, not just NASA, certainly not just Russia, not just JAXA, not just any of them, all of them have been faking space really quite poorly and sloppily the entire time. But again, they're relying on people never in a million years considering that they might actually be lying, right? So if nobody ever thinks that they might be lying, they have nothing to worry about. But when you go back, to the 70s and catching them lying even then, catching them, starting up NASA with literal Nazis like Werner von Braun and others from Operation Paperclip, it's like, dude, it is in your face. NASA is a deceptive government agency by nature. And, because of they're part of the government, of course, government means mind control, control of the mind, government. That is what it means, literally or etymologically. And so, we should expect nothing less from NASA than to constantly steal from us, deceive us, and basically put it in our face and, pay people $250,000 a year to come up with neat little acronyms. Totally worth it. Visiting NASA Glenn facility tours from April through October. The Glenn Research Facility. How much is it going to cost, I wonder? Isn't that what I came here for? What is the cost of this damn thing? And I hope it is a particle accelerator, right? That is what that is, isn't it? I mean, I don't think it's a rave club, right? That would be a pretty awesome rave club, though. I would go for sure. All right. Okay, but how much is the damn thing going to cost our taxpayers? I know it's not $13. That was September 13th. So I guess they're not going to tell us yet. I mean, I guess, if it's not supposed to be done by 2020, but if they've already got a contractor, they should have a pretty good idea of what their budget is and what they're shooting for. Right? I mean, don't the contracts go to the lowest bidder, or do they do away with that shenanigans in government contracts this big, right? Is it a no-bid contract for whatever Austin, whatever the heck its name was? Is that a no-bid contract, I wonder? Do they just get these contracts because their name is doing business as Austin, Boston Market, whatever? Yeah, so they're not going to tell us how much is dollars. Okay, what if I put dollars instead of cost? Do you think dollars cost of... See, that is, I mean, if this is a public project, right? It's a government project. Shouldn't they be very, very transparent with what they're planning to do, how much they're shooting to cost, and shouldn't the contractors be competing on that? Because I would submit, if they don't even know how much it's going to cost, right? If they don't know, or if they're not telling us right now how much it's going to cost, that would imply to me that this contractor got this project without even a bid. They might not even have looked at the ground yet, right? Certainly not even necessarily broken ground or anything, and yet they're already awarded the contract. So yeah, that screams of not insider trading. That's a bad word. It's more cronyism. It might be unethical. It is not illegal. No bid contracts happen with the government all the time. Remember, like Blackwater, the private contractors going over to the war zones in the Middle East and doing so-called security, getting paid just gobs more money than the soldiers do for basically less work. As a matter of fact, I know people that literally civilians that went overseas doing laundry in the Middle East during the war, getting paid way more than most of the soldiers out there, way more, and coming home with just gobs of money because, you get extra money for being over there. And they pay those private contractors pay their people well. So, no real complaints there that they are paying their people well, but remember, the lion's share of that money is going to fat cat corporations who are never going to spend it on anything. They're going to, invest it in things. It's never going to go back into the population. It's going to be sucked up to the very top of the super wealthy pit just like everything else. I mean, that is what this system is set up to do, isn't it? Right. So, are they going to tell us? Are they going to tell us how much this costs? Wikipedia should know, right? If anybody knows the be-all, end-all source of truth in this world, Wikipedia should know. I don't see anything that says anything about cost. Maybe it's under other, but that would be a fairly obscure place to put the cost. Shouldn't it be right on the top? I'm going to go ahead and assume, and correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing it, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that there is no estimated cost. There's no price tag on this new facility that they're putting up on their website. If I'm wrong, shoot me in the face. But that to me, just I would be willing to bet that contractor got a no bid contract. So pretty sweet for them. Sucks for everybody else. But they're both Freemasons, so it's all good, bro. It's all good for them Masons, because the free market that you guys are so proud of just loves no competition, don't they, buddies? I mean, come on. Such hypocrites. These types of people, they praise the free markets, and then they shit on the free markets every chance they get. Of course they do. Of course they do. That is NASA. Because it's hard to be NASA. Yes, sir. All right. So, here we go. So, NASA invites media to SpaceX in-flight abort test for commercial crew. November 26, 2019. Oh, I'm reading the post dates. I'm just going to keep doing it. I might as well. Consistency. Media accreditation. God, that is a really just jargony word, isn't it? I don't think I've ever said that word in my life. Accreditation. Media accreditation. That's like a tongue twister in one word. It's open for SpaceX's in-flight abort. Oh, man, there's just all kinds of really just gold SpaceX little mini jokes and all this stuff. SpaceX in-flight abortion test as a part of NASA's commercial crew program. The flight test of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket and Crew Dragon spacecraft is targeted for no earlier than December. An exact test date is still to be determined. From Historic Launch Complex 39 at NASA's Kennedy Limobile Center in Florida. Yeah. Falcon 9 rocket. So, yeah, just more of the same here. Nothing real meaty or juicy there. I think there was a couple good ones down towards the bottom, so we'll just keep going through them. And if there's nothing in here, there's nothing in here. But we really need to keep up with what NASA's doing, because it's hard to be NASA. NASA awards program analysis and Control V contract. NASA has awarded an 8A small business set-aside contract to ASRC Federal System Solutions, LLC. God, these companies sure are a mouthful, and they do sound official, aren't they? ASRC Federal System Solutions, LLC in Beltsville, Maryland, for services that support planning and managing of NASA missions, projects, and programs. So, wait a minute. So, what is an 8A small business set-aside contract? I have no idea what that is. So, let's see. Gotta look it up. Alright, so here we go. Bid on federal contract. So, a small business acquisition. What is this? Ask Jeeves? Like, come on, Google. What is an... Oh, same shit. Well, that was helpful. Okay, here we go. Well, isn't that what I just typed? I mean, come on. Small business set-asides are contracts set aside. Well, no shit, Sherlock. By the SBA that must be awarded to small businesses. Well, not large businesses? Well, in order to help them compete for the $500 billion in goods and services the federal government buys from the private sector annually. So, okay, I am completely confused about what this is. They certainly did stress that it's small businesses, but, $500 billion that they're, chipping away at. I bet you these small businesses can put some damage on that $500 billion pretty quick, right? Okay, so small. Let me read this again. I'm sorry, I totally don't understand what a small business set-asides are. So it's a contract set aside by the SBA. And what is the SBA again? Small Business something Association. Who knows? By the SBA that must be awarded to small businesses in order to help them compete for the $500 billion Okay, wait a minute. Wait. Small businesses who need help to compete. So basically, out the door with the free market again, right? We're going to subsidize small businesses who can't even compete in what they're trying to compete for. Yeah, let's definitely give these guys a helping hand, because you know how these really small businesses definitely need billions of dollars to get on their feet. Yeah, even though they're clearly not going to be that small, right? I bet you. But okay, so basically what they're saying is that the government wants to give away money to businesses who are certainly not run by Freemasons ever, I'm sure. Never, ever, ever. But the government wants to give away billions and billions of dollars of our money to businesses not run by Freemasons ever. And basically that is to help them in order to help them to compete for this money that they want to give them. They're going to give them more money. Okay? So, first of all, before these guys have even laid the first brick, right, they're getting paid so that they can, buy materials, hire people to pay them slave wages, hire a couple guys, pay them $250,000 a year to come up with acronyms, the usual. You're going to need a couple hundred toilet seats at $5,000 a pop, so that adds up pretty quick. And next thing you know, these guys can certainly compete with the big boys when the government sets aside this money for them. So that's what it is. You learn something new every day. So an 8A. So we all know now what an 8A is, and there's no question about it. Woof. The ASA, Federal Solutions, LLC. So, okay, let's just see. I am curious because, the word small is a relative term that's up to interpretation. A small business to me, let's see, I ran a small business, and a good year for me was less than $40,000. Yeah, and that was when, well, maybe a little more in my best year. But okay, so that's definitely a very small business. I wonder how many billions of dollars NASA would give to me to compete for these contracts. I guess I probably can't threaten them with blackmail of exposing their lies. I probably should have tried that first. It would have been a much more, adept capitalist move on my part, but I'm not exactly the capitalist type. Never have been, never will be. You can hate me for it, you can love me for it. But if I have something, I would rather share it with people than to try to sell it to them for more than I paid for it, in order to essentially cheat them out of free money for me. That is what capitalism is. That is the cornerstone of our society, is a capitalist society where basically it is built by people stepping on everyone else's heads to get ahead, right? And if you don't do it, you're going to fall behind, so you better start stepping on the heads, people. So, but I do want to know, where did it go? Oh, ASRC, yeah. ASRC Federal Systems Solutions. I'd like to know what is their annual gross. And I bet you that should be pretty easy to find. Of course, NASA is not going to put that on there for you because they don't want you to know what their definition of a small business is. But when you're dealing with $52 million a day, a small business could be, well, a juggernaut in any other respect. So let's just see. No, I didn't want to put NASA there. Hold on. LLC. Gross annual. Okay. Well, they're not going to report their gross manual. Okay, wait. About us. There we go. Oh, wow. So has annual sales approaching $650 million? And 3,000 employees. Dude, is there even a definition of what a small business is? Because I'm sorry, dude. I don't even think you can call that a small business. 3,000 employees? My goodness. Hold on. So define small business. I guarantee you there's not a number on that. It is very much a relative term. Oh, okay, wait. So NASA's just absolutely lying about this. Is that considered fraud when NASA blatantly lies about simple things like what a small business is? I mean, come on. These people are just oozing with deception. It is absolutely ubiquitous. The definition of a small business is an independently owned and operated company that is limited in size. So limited to what, 3,000? $650 million gross annual? and in revenue depending on the industry. A local bakery that employs 10 people is an example of a small business. Wouldn't it have been so funny if it said, an example of a small business is a local bakery with 3,000 employees and gross sales of $650 million. Now, that would be hilarious. And NASA, don't go and change the definition of small business on Google, okay? We'll catch you. We always do. A manufacturing facility that employs less than 500 people is an example of a small business. Okay, so basically, there you go. I'm very surprised. There is a very well-defined definition of what a small business is. Maybe a bit of leeway, so I think 501 wouldn't necessarily be considered a large business by any means. But when you get up into the, 3,000 people, well, I think we need to change the definition of small business, or NASA needs to learn how to spell laser and change their website calling. This company, with over $650 million in gross sales, is a small business. And by the way, if they're doing $650 million in sales, is it really necessary to start setting aside money for them, more money, so that they can compete for even more money? Like, this is insane, people. This is insane. And, I got an idea, and I'll be the CEO. I'll just be a silent CEO. If anybody wants to do this, I vote we all get together, start a corporation, and basically go to NASA and say, we want some set-aside money so that we can compete for this other money, right? I mean, that would be a good plan. And by the way, it is our money, and we deserve it because, we're a small business. There's only, how many millions of flat earthers are? I mean, we can just keep going. Why does it have to stop at 3,000 employees? And maybe there's 2 million flat earthers. Maybe we're a small business too, NASA. Huh. Wow, well, this is just so ridiculous, though. So basically, NASA is caught lying on their own website about giving free money to businesses that is supposed to be a small business. So, if they wanted to give a couple $1 billion to a bakery with 10 employees, I would be cool with that. You know what I mean? Because I like baked goods. If they wanted to give a couple $1 billion to a manufacturing company with 500 employees, or even 501, I'm cool with that, as long as it helps them compete with the big boys and maybe get ahead. That I totally agree with, okay? The little guys, helping out the little guys. But, for them to start dumping more money at a company that has $650 million in sales, 3,000 employees, just so that company can compete for more money? And what does that imply? So if they give them the set-aside money to compete for more money, there's a chance that they won't get that contract. They won't get that more money. So basically NASA, and I'm not sure how it works, maybe I'm reading a bit too much into this, maybe there's some stipulations, but I doubt it. I mean, NASA is basically the largest laundering money operation in history, so they have to keep it flowing. You have to have cash flow. And so these Freemasons, these secret society dudes, they're getting all these easy greasy contracts. NASA's not even bothering to not award them the contracts if they don't think they can do the job. Well, NASA just give them free money so that they can do the job. Maybe not, but they'll still get the free money, I reckon. I do need to look into that. I'm not going to dig that deep, but I would be interested in knowing is if if they don't get that more money that they're competing for, well, what happens to the set aside money? Do they still get that? They call it set aside for small businesses. We already know that they lied about small businesses, so I'm pretty sure if I had to put my money on it, I'd say that they're lying about the set aside part too. So basically, I'd bet you every dollar I have in my wallet right now, all 52 million of them, because I only got paid once today. I bet it all that that money just goes to the contractor who's going to compete for the more money. And if they don't get the more money, then they did get the original money that they got for basically trying to compete for the more money. I mean, this is absurd. Do you guys see? I think it's so funny when you look at world politics, world news, geopolitical stuff. And I don't watch that stuff much anymore, but I've always thought it was funny where they'll say, well, the United States has, and I don't know the numbers, the United States has 10 times more expenditure, or maybe 100 times more expenditure than the next one, the next biggest country or whatever. But the thing is if they're just dumping billions of dollars to these contractors who are definitely not run by Freemasons, just saying, when they're dumping this free money at them, well then, those numbers are inflated pretty quick, man. They really are. It's like this, dude. Just because the government spends $20 million on something doesn't really necessarily mean that it's better than something that some other government spent, say, $10 million on, right? Because perhaps the other government is more efficient, more effective, or just less wasteful, less bureaucratic, less greedy, less assholio-ish than the United States government and NASA and all the rest. Right, so I mean, it's just, dude, it's almost making me sick just to read this, but I'm going to continue because I am a bit of a masochist. In Beltsville, Maryland, for services that support planning and managing of NASA missions, projects, and programs. So, what is a Control V contract? You know, all these little abbreviations that they're using. Do they just, if they're lying about something, do they just kind of not even type the whole word out? They'll just put a little abbreviation like, maybe that'll cover my tracks. Nobody knows what a Control V contract is, right? So let's see. And I wonder how much he got paid to come up with that. Control V contract. So it's paste, Control V. I get it. Wow, that's pretty clever. You know, that guy does deserve $250 million a year. Because it's a very clever pun on paste contract. You know, it's sticky fingers, paste. I betcha. I just got to see. So what the fuck is a Control V contract? What are you, Control V contract? I guess that is a NASA-specific term. It appears Control V contract is NASA-specific. The Program Analysis and Control, PAAC. Hey, that's my favorite acronym writer's work right there. I can tell. He's real good. Control V contract is a cost plus fixed fee. God almighty. So now I got to look up what is a cost plus fixed fee indefinite dash delivery / indefinite dash quantity contact with a minimum ordering value of $1 million. And a maximum of $354 million. Well, that is a bit of a spread there, NASA. It might be $1 million, might be $354 million, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah, it's either going to be more money than most people will ever see in their life, or 354 times more money than most people will ever see in their life. One or the other, or somewhere in between, or maybe neither, maybe double, right? Because we're NASA, and it's hard to be NASA. It is. It's hard to be NASA. Let me tell you, boy. The contract ordering period is 5 years to commence on or about January 1st, 2020. So I have no idea, and I just read that entire novel of what is a Control V contract, which the top 4 results are all specific to NASA. So this is definitely a NASA-specific thing. Let me read it again, and I will try not to be funny, but God, it's just funny on its own. The Program Analysis and Control PAAC V contract is a cost plus fixed fee, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contact with a minimum ordering value of $1 million and a maximum of $354 million. The contract ordering period is 5 years to commence on or about January 1st. Dude, I really wish that these people at NASA would learn to speak English, learn to explain themselves a little bit less, vaguely, and learn how to spell laser. Did I say that already? Well, they need to learn how to spell laser twice because they're NASA. You'd think that would be like one of the main ones that they know is laser, right? God almighty. So, you know what? I've worked in print shops before, and I swear, one time we did a calendar for a golf course. It was a full color, pretty expensive. It was like 10,000 calendars. Maybe that was a lot. Maybe it was 1,000. It was a big order for a golf course, and I misspelled calendar on the final proof, and nobody caught it. The proofreader didn't catch it. The owner of the company's wife didn't catch it. Yet somehow it was my fault. Now, of course, I didn't have to pay for reprinting it, but I really never lived it down. Like, how do you misspell calendar? But, well, I'll tell you, it was, I spelled it CALENDAR, calendar, and it's supposed to be calendar. Maybe I got that backwards, but I transversed the A and the E in calendar, right? So, it does happen. Happens to the best of us. But then again, I'm not making $52 million a day to type laser, NASA, and I think laser's a lot easier to spell than calendar. Like, think about it and be honest. How many times have any of you guys spelled out the word calendar in your entire life? Right? Because it said right on the cover of it. It said like 20 whatever calendar. Right on the top in big gold bold letters with black stroke. Right? And a really nice picture of the clubhouse and the greens and stuff on the front. But, it doesn't matter how pretty it is. If you misspell calendar on the front of a calendar, yeah, you're pretty much screwed. And even though you've got people that are supposed to be proofreading your stuff before it goes to the plate, it will still be your fault if you misspell calendar on the front of the calendar, and that is why I do not make $52 million a day. So whoever misspelled laser who works at NASA should probably not be getting any of that $52 million today.
A monkey could spell laser.
Yeah,
That's
well,
spell potato.
I think a monkey could have typed this article, and there would definitely be less lies on here, and less just lies by omission, lies by confusion, lies by deflection, lies by acronym. I mean, really, they're even lying by acronym in this one. Are they? I don't know. That might have been a bit of a stretch, but I think they did that too.
Build something to write in.
I'm live streaming, baby.
I just think it's funny.
I know. Isn't that hilarious? On NASA's website, they misspelled the word laser.
Well, you know that guy
like
that
what?
misspelled potato?
I would have lost, dude. I would lose my $250,000 a year job, and I'd have to go back to making acronyms.
I was laughing. I would be laughing as I fired his ass.
Then again, you know, if you lose your job doing the acronyms, NASA does have plenty of jobs for people who are not Freemasons to cut holes in donuts. Yeah, they do. It's true. It's true. All right, so NASA announces, this is the next little semi-article with no hyperlinks in it because NASA does not have the time or the budget or the energy to link their website together on this thing called the internet, where web pages are typically linked together fairly cost-effectively, but then again, they can't spell laser. So here we go. NASA announces 9th consecutive clean financial audit opinion. Clean financial audit opinion. Okay, so wait. NASA announces 9th consecutive clean financial audit opinion. Okay, so that means NASA has been doing a pretty good job cooking the books, laundering the money, making it look kosher, firing off $50 million bottle rockets into the ocean so that people, believe that they're doing science in space, having their inventors on the ground inventing things sometimes not. So that the general public will believe that NASA is in space inventing things. I mean, God almighty. All right, so the NASA Office of the Chief Financial Officer has led the way for an unmodified audit opinion. Okay, wait a minute. So NASA's CFO has led the way for an unmodified audit opinion on the agency's fiscal year 2019 financial statements. This represents NASA's 9th consecutive clean opinion from an independent accounting firm, the highest opinion possible. And guys, I would just mention this before I go back into this. I'm going to have to read that again because I have no idea what that meant on the first read-through. And I'm not sure what a clean opinion means. If it's coming from NASA, I would imagine that clean means like muddy and dirty and disgusting and like covered in pus and everything, right? That would be clean. But damn, and I totally forgot what I was going to say. Let me just read this again. It wasn't important. The NASA Office of the Chief Financial Officer has led the way for an unmodified audit opinion on the agency's fiscal year 2019 financial statements. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. What I was going to say is, if you ever find a bag of money or like many bags of money like lying on the beach or something, and you really probably shouldn't just go spend it like at the stores because they do have numbers on them and you'll get caught. I would recommend highly, especially the larger the amount that it is, the better. Give that damn money to NASA because they're going to be able to do something with that for you, I believe. Like, honestly, like you probably might want to join the Freemasons first and get to know some of the higher ups or whatever. But yeah, I would if I had to launder money, I would do that. I would join the Masons and just give it to NASA because let me put it this way, their private investments, NASA's private investments, and it reeks of a Ponzi scheme, it really does. But they have increased every year significantly. I think last year in 2018, it was like 25 times more private donations from individuals and businesses NASA received than the year before or any other year before or something. So there's a lot of people that are just private citizens, not even taxpayers, whatever. Well, sure they are. Well, no, they're not. They're rich, dumping money into NASA, and basically. It's a Ponzi scheme because more and more people keep doing this every year. It appears that they're laundering money and they're getting paid back from NASA clean money. So, what I would say, if clean doesn't mean filthy and disgusting and muddy and pus-filled and everything, then I would say that it means clean as in, cleaning, laundering money, right? Because that is indeed what NASA has always been doing because, well, let's face it, folks, they're not spending money going to space. They didn't go to the moon. They're not up in ISS doing science. You know what? dude, I didn't even, oh my god, I have to come back to this one because I just remembered there was one right at the top that I didn't even get to. This ocean animal ones. Oh, I did such a good job reading it. I forgot to say what I was going to say about it. All right, so I'm just going to read it normally again. And sorry for jumping around, folks, but I did not want to forget this because there's a good point in here. Every night, under the cover of darkness, God, but you kind of have to read it like that, don't you? Every night, under the cover of darkness, countless small creatures from squid to krill. Oh, that's so funny. Squid to krill swim from the ocean depths near the surface to feed. This vast animal migration, the largest on the planet and a critical part of Earth's climate system, has been observed globally for the first time thanks to an unexpected use of space-based lace. Oh, that's right. How could you... I'm like, dude, space-based lace on a NASA website is just the be-all, end-all. Like, that was not what I was going to... I didn't even notice that the first time. Okay, so what I was going to say that, okay, so NASA supposedly from the ISS, the ISS, which is about 300 miles up, give or take, maybe 250, I'm not 100% sure. But, so from 250 miles up, they're firing laser beams onto sharks' heads and things like squids and krills and sea dragons and Loch Ness monsters and everything, bro. They're laser beaming these little tiny krill, which I believe aren't krill the little tiny things that like humpback whales eat. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. But okay, let's see. What is a krill? And I know that we used to call crippy krill, and now we call krill dank, or we used to call dank loud. But krill, yeah, that's another synonym for dank. No, it is. It's like these little scrimping business. That's so funny because that's my new nickname for my dog. I've called her Boogaloo for years, but I started calling her Boogaloo Shrimp, and then I did sort of a Alex Trebek before and after, and it's now Boogaloo Shrimp and Business, you know, from the Forrest Gump reference. So that's Buttmutt's new nickname is Boogaloo Shrimp and Business, just saying. So yeah, these krills. So okay, so let me just say this again. NASA claims to be shooting krills with laser beams to track them from like 300 miles away. If you believe this, then I have a bridge in Alaska that I will sell you for a nominal fee of $52 million every day, forever, plus bonuses. Plus I gotta have a little bit extra for my guy who does my anagrams, right? Because he's really good. Krill are small crustaceans of the order of Euphausiaceae. I'll never say that right. Euphausiaceae, and are found in the world's oceans. No crap. Crustaceans found in the oceans? The name krill comes from the dank Norwegian word krill. Well, isn't that kosher? Meaning small fry of fish. Oh, that sounds good. Small fry of fish. Yeah, that sounds like a good restaurant. Which that's also attributed to a species of fish. So it's definitely a little boogaloo scrimpin' business. And yeah, NASA says that yeah, they're up there in the ISS doing science. They got this new French laser beam where they can track the migration of ocean animals. Which, you know, let's just say, for example, that we are getting actual tracking data of these ocean animals' migration patterns. Let's just say that that's true, and it very well may be. Where does that in any way suggest that it's actually NASA in the ISS, almost 300 miles in altitude, getting this data? Wouldn't it be much more efficient and effective and, you know, existing technology that pretty much anyone could achieve to basically have an array of high-altitude planes doing the exact same thing with the exact same laser beam, only much, much less powerful because, you know, a laser beam can travel more easily 30,000 feet or whatever than it can 300 miles. Not to mention, you know, the sheer angular size of these little boogaloo scrimpin' businesses from 300 miles away. Like, how does that make any sense? So they'll say, oh, well, you can get a wider view of the Earth from 300 miles up, so we can see more of these scrimpin' businesses from, you know, from that vantage point. But I would say, okay, well, couldn't you do basically the same thing with 20 high-altitude planes, maybe 50? It would still be way cheaper than what it costs to pay NASA to go up in space, fly around in gorilla suits, play flutes, play guitars, and basically do absolutely nothing, grow cabbage for the first time, for the 10th time in space, not invent anything in space practically ever, have guys getting paid pretty good money on the ground to invent things on the ground so that people will believe that NASA is inventing things in space. unless you look into it, and then they clearly tell you that they're not doing any of that. Well, at least, not inventing things in space. They have to give credit to the inventors who have never been to space. So there's no way that their inventions were invented in space, right? No way. Like, if you've never been to space, then how can you invent things in space, man? NASA, French laser measures massive migration of ocean animals. And I would say, I probably agree that French space laser or French laser exists. Does France have a space agency? Let's just see. Does France... I would assume no, right? Otherwise, why would they be, giving out their laundering capabilities to NASA? Does France have a space program? I don't think they do they? The French space program, includes both civil and military spaceflight activities. Oh, so they got their own space sex. It is the third oldest institutional space program in history. Oh, no kidding. Along with the USSR and the US. I can honestly say I probably have seen some French astronauts on the ISS or the LISS. Maybe even had some French kissing on the LISS. But I can't remember ever seeing a French space mission, and maybe it's just because I don't watch much French stuff. However, that is pretty odd. Like, I had no idea there was even a French space program, and so that does sort of beg the question, why is the French, or are the French, with their third oldest in the world, a space program, why exactly are they subbing out their space fakery to NASA? I mean, it's already hard enough to be NASA. It's hard to be NASA, right? But no. So France has a space program, but they just choose not. That's so very French of them, isn't it? We have a space program. We have a space program, but we do not use this space program. You stupid Americans. I'm just kidding. I love you, French people. You roll funny joints, though. They put tobacco in them. That's weird. All right. So let's see here. What was I going to look up? I was going to look up, oh, crap. How much does French space program cost annually? It's probably $900 billion. Oh no. Wow. So I guess, France's national space mission actually is technically, according to NASA, defined as a small business. With 681.4 million euros in 2005. That's a bit dated, isn't it? Will rise 1.5% per year over the next 6-year period. Oh, so they've went up to what's 1.5 compounded annually for 6 years, starting with 681.4 million. I don't know, but we'll just say we'll add, let's see, 6.4 plus a little bonus, we'll add 32. So 710 million, 711 million, something like that. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm way off. I don't know. But, okay, so, yes, France only gets, that's like what? How long does NASA chew through 681.4 million euros, right? What's that, about $100 billion? Dude, NASA will chew through that in a minute. I'm just really curious because France's annual space budget shows that these guys really ain't been on their game when it comes to embezzling, laundering, and faking space, okay? Because, what is 100 million euros? I'm sorry, $100 million, 681.4 million euros, and by now, we need to, oh, dude, I thought that said 2015, so we need to add, oh, dude, it's probably up to like $120 billion. I need to just convert this to dollars, hold on. So I want to get an exact figure because we want to know just exactly how crappy the French space program is. So convert euros to dollars. And then we're also going to, what are we going to do? I am just like losing my train of thought here. So it's 1.1 to 1. So what did we say? 681.4 million? 400,000. Dude, did I get that wrong? Let me just make sure. I'm sorry. I'm terrible at transposing things. 681.4. Is that what I did? 684.4. Ah, that's damn close. Okay. 681.4 million euros. That's $750,776.74. Can't forget the 74 cents. Not like I could have used that for a soda this morning when I didn't have anything to drink. NASA needs that 74 cents way more than I do, let me tell you. All right, so $750 million and some change. That's their annual budget, but that was in 2005, so we need to add 1.5% to that for about 15 years. So, do I really want to do this math? So we're talking about, a pretty small business, certainly in, relative terms to the other space programs, which are just gargantuan juggernauts compared to the French space program that they don't want to use because they're just French. They don't want to. I don't know. So, well, it looks like they're running out of money because, dude, they had to buy a bunch of toilet seats this year. They ran out of money pretty damn quick buying them NASA toilet seats, right? Yeah. That's what they did. So, okay. So the French basically have to piggyback with the NASA assholes, as George Carlin calls them, because their paltry $750 million a year budget, we might as well just allow the French to rape us a little bit too. I mean, when you're getting raped by NASA, who cares about a little bit of French rape? Right? Oh God, they're gonna pull this video now. And that was a joke. So if you get offended by rape jokes, then, well, I'm sorry. Really, really sorry. And I'm not sorry. I was just kidding. Right. I don't condone rope. Rope. I don't condone rope. Rope is not appropriate talk for fake space talks. Right. So, okay. So, yeah. So, basically, more or less, France's space program freaking sucks, dude. I mean, they ain't got nothing going on. Oh, that's what I wanted to find out. So, what did we say? $750 million divided by 52 million a day. That's what? Dude, I'm like so bad with these large numbers. So, give me a calculator, Google. As long as it's not a calculator designed by NASA, it might lie to me about numbers. All right, so we're just going to round it up. It doesn't have to be exact. What, $750 million? Oh, plus all that other 1.5 interest for freaking 15 years. So you'd have to add that too. Let's just add, we'll say, 1.5% is 750 million. And then multiply that by 15. There's about 100. So, okay, we'll call it 850 million. We'll do plus 100. That's probably good enough. It might be a little bit more. Doesn't really matter. And then we're going to divide that by NASA's paltry, measly $52 million a day. And by the way, I guarantee you, I promise you, I've seen them, I've read them. There are websites that are dedicated to complaining that NASA does not get enough money from us. Doesn't get enough. We're not giving NASA enough money. However, they can afford to give contractors set aside free money to help those small businesses compete for more money, even though these small businesses have a gross annual sales of over $600 million and 3,000 employees, technically making them anything but a small company. So, just blatant lies right there. Cronyism at its worst, pretending to be capitalists and then just dumping all over the capitalist manifesto, right? Because, I was raised in America. I understand capitalism. I respect people who are good at it, although I will not chill with them because good capitalists make bad friends. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. Good capitalists make... do I have any good capitalist friends? Let me think about that. I don't know. I got a lot of friends, but I don't think so. I don't think there's many good capitalist flat earthers. Well, yeah, maybe there are. Surely many better than I. But I would say, compared to a sample of the regular population, I think the flat earth capitalists are probably looking like the French compared to NASA when it comes to fake and space, if you know what I mean. Right? Okay. So let's see. What is the answer here? Oh, and where did my 850 million go? Well, that's wrong. I got to do this over. See, I told you guys, it's hard to be NASA. It's hard to be NASA. So it was 850 million. I don't know how that happened. But it did. And, oh shit. Divided by, what am I doing? Divided by 52. Wait a minute, what am I doing? No, I'm doing this backwards. Yo, you guys need to, correct me, even though I can't see the chat. So, what it is it's, oh, I was totally doing that right. Dude, I'm sorry, y'all. It's been a long day. I've been literally running around up and down the street trying to get a headset all day, chasing receipts in the wind. overshooting receipts in the wind, almost running headlong into a car, chasing my receipt in the wind, only to have the car stop on the receipt with its back tire, and I have to almost fight a man to get my receipt. And I'm glad that I did that because I had to return that headset because this laptop does not support Bluetooth, even though it has Wi-Fi. I mean, this laptop certainly weren't bought by NASA because they would have millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of Bluetooth devices in this in this laptop, right? Okay, so what am I doing? 850 million divided by 52 million. Oh, that's 850,000. See, that's why it looks so wrong. I'm like, how am I going to divide? Oh my God. I'm getting worse and worse at using this keyboard here. It's a little laptop keyboard with no mouse, and so it's a bit of a struggle. 850,000. 3 more zeros. 1, 2, 3. Why don't they put commas in there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So 850 million. See, that looks more like a NASA number, right? Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the French number. Do I have this wrong? 8? Yeah. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that's 8.5 billion. So, okay. I was going to say that did look like a NASA number. 850 million divided by... Dude, this is like the longest math problem ever, dude. $52 million. And this is going to tell us how many days it would take for NASA to burn through France's paltry budget for the year, right? Okay, that's 52, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shit, how many did I just do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's 52 million. Great. So, drum roll. Okay, let's just do it. Wow, 16 days. So basically 2 weeks. Not even close to a month. NASA is basically just burning through France's entire annual budget. So I'm just wondering, and I don't want to dig for this. Maybe I will. It's already been an hour. I am having way too much fun with this because I had so many other things I wanted to talk about too, and I guess I'm going to have to do those. But in 16 days, they're going to burn through it. So that begs the question, is France even paying NASA for their ride to the ISS or for their cargo's ride to the ISS? I mean, I don't know. We're talking about a laser beam that's supposedly going up to the ISS. So, I mean, maybe because it's science, France's laser beam gets a free ride. But, as a taxpayer and a, burgeoning capitalist, I would say we need some of France's cheddar too. Because big bank take little bank, ain't that the way it goes? You know what I mean? All right. Big bank take little bank, NASA. It's hard to be NASA. Oh, man. Dude, I'm sorry, you guys. I know I'm a bit rambunctious today. It's just been a bit of a crazy day. Like, I've literally... Oh, my God. Let me tell you my other fun story for today, and we'll get back to the NASA lies. Okay. Oh, and I got to get back down to where I was at before, don't I? So I went and did laundry at the laundromat today, and it was a lot, because a lot of this stuff had been sitting in my van for months and months. And so I finally did all the laundry today. 3 giant triple loaders full, and put them in the dryers, and sit there and stuff quarters in those dryers for like way longer than it seemed like it should. Now, one of the dryers actually seemed to get the stuff dry, but the other two were basically, they were getting warm. They were warm, but the clothes were all wet, so the dryers didn't work with the damn. And I had just put, I think, 5 quarters in each. When the first one wasn't done, I put a couple more quarters in that, a couple more quarters in the other. So, like, it's just eating through money. Well, the one that worked okay kind of got done, but not really, but it was, it was doable. The other 2, I had to bring them home wet because I had to rush home to do my live stream with my headset that I had bought on Friday, good Black Friday. $99 headset for $25 that I got to take back, right? Because it didn't work. But so, of course, I rushed back to do the stream. And piddle fart around for 30 minutes where nobody can hear me and ended up having to cancel it. So, like, I absolutely could have switched, hunted down maybe another dryer that might have worked and done it, and it wouldn't have, you guys wouldn't have been able to laugh at me at 11 o'clock this morning. But, it wasn't necessary for me to take my wet clothes out of non-functioning dryers that I just spent many quarters on. Just to have the stream crap out. So it's been one of those days. And again, mind you, this was before I basically raced a receipt in the 25-mile-an-hour wind into traffic, really on a hunch, because I always keep receipts. You never know. If you don't have them, they like to give you a hard time. certain places worse than others. And so, like, I almost literally died getting that receipt. And it's a good thing that I did that, because I had to walk directly back to the store, return that, get another one, walk back, and then my little coupon receipt that was in my bag blew away in the wind, so I don't even know what was on the coupon. It was probably something good. I bet you it was. Bet you it was a good one. Yep. Walgreens has got some pretty good coupons. They do. Not an ad for Walgreens, but I'm just saying, I did go there to get the headset because Walmart doesn't have the adapters that I needed for my original headset that I still have to return, right? So, dude, like, wow, it has been one of those days. It's just, everything's gone wrong, but I'll tell you what, I think that this stream so far has been sort of the cherry on top of today. A nice little tasty cherry on a big shit sandwich of a day. Okay, so back into the lies and just vicious anagrams of NASA. NASA highlights science on 19th SpaceX resupply mission to LISS. Wait a minute. Okay, so let me get this straight. The headline of this little mini article, whatever the hell these are, the headline is NASA highlights science. Well, really, what has NASA been doing for the last, 60 years? They've certainly been highlighting science. So what, you're telling me they're changing things up finally on this 19th SpaceX resupply mission to LISS? I thought that the whole thing with SpaceX is that they were supposed to replace NASA because NASA is, well, according to the mainstream narrative, they're inefficient. And again, that term is very much an understatement, but let's just say that it's because NASA's inefficient. Well, then they go and compare NASA to SpaceX, saying, well, SpaceX is doing this much cheaper than NASA did, so see? But the thing is, isn't NASA still there with their infrastructure doing everything they were doing before in the background except pretending to launch rockets into space? So it cost SpaceX a little bit less than NASA to do what they were doing before, but now we're still paying NASA to do the other half of it, right? So I bet you if you do the math, it comes out to about triple what it would have been if you would have just paid NASA to do it to begin with, or just paid SpaceX to do it to begin with. But, who knows? And by the way, just because I don't like SpaceX doesn't mean that I don't like PayPal, okay? So I do like PayPal. My PayPal account is still fine. I know there was a lot of people that had issues with that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there ever was a real explanation as to why that occurred. And I would be willing to bet that's because PayPal was, not exactly forthright with their reasoning. And I think that's the case. Like, basically, they just gave lots and lots of people recently these blanket, your PayPal account is closed, you have no money, it is our money, we will give it back to you in 100 and some odd days, whatever. But I don't think we ever got an explanation as to why that happened, either from the people that it happened to, or probably not even from PayPal. Here's my hunch, okay, and it's an educated hunch, and maybe I'm wrong, but let's talk about it just one second. But, okay, so I worked for I know this is going to sound really funny coming from me, but I've worked for the Professional Firefighters Association and the Police Benevolent Society, different times, different places, but collecting contributions from the public. So basically we would call people at home, tell them that we represent the Police Benevolent Association, and you can't say you're a cop, but if you sound like a cop, it works a lot better, just saying. But then they send you a check for the Police Benevolent Association, whatever. Now, here's the thing, though. In certain situations, you can say it is a donation that you are sending back, okay? And that is because, and only because, that donation is tax deductible. If you say to someone, especially publicly, or on paper, or on record, will you send me a donation? Well, that implies that what they're giving you is tax deductible from a legalese standpoint. Promise you. Maybe it's different from state to state, but in every single state that I've been in doing it, it's been a few over the years. Yeah, that's the deal. So here's the thing, man. This is my hypothesis, and I'm not calling anybody out, not pointing any fingers at anybody, but I think that anybody that was out there, even maybe a couple times, that said the words, send me a donation on PayPal, and I am not saying that, I am just, air quotes there, right? Google Thought Police and the automated evil robot demon. yeah, that, that right there, if somebody wants to make us think about it, they can say, well, I was told that it's a donation, right? And I'm not trying to give the trolls any ideas. Maybe I shouldn't even say this, but I think this is what I think happened, okay? And so if you tell them to do that with the donation thing, and then it is not tax deductible, they can complain to the authorities about that, because that's basically, I don't know what you call it. I don't know if it's fraud, but it's basically, maybe it is, bordering on fraud, according to legalese. You cannot say, and I learned this, this was drilled in my mind, I never even say the word DONATION, or INDEPENDENC. Do you know what I mean, right? But I definitely don't say the word DONATE, ever. Never going to hear me say it, especially not when I'm talking about my PayPal account. Never said it, and I just did that out of habit. And I actually told a lot of people, hey man, I heard you say donation on your channel. Don't do that, because you can get in trouble for saying that word. People sending you money, it implies that it's tax deductible. And so, for example, the Fayetteville Professional Firefighters Association in Fayetteville, North Kakalaka, what we did there was we hosted a benefit concert semi-annually, twice a year. And we'd have different bands depending on the time. Like, one of them was Crystal Gale. I don't know if you guys know Crystal Gale. She's a big hit back in like the 1950s or whatever. 1964 as the Beatles, who's a Beatles cover band. There was another one. Oh man, who was that guy? I'll never think of his name now that I'll think of it when I'm not thinking of it. But kind of generic bands that some people might like to see. And so what the Firefighters Association did, instead of asking for donations or not donations, what they did is they sold benefit concert tickets, and if the people didn't want to go, they could send the ticket back with their check. But the thing is, though, like in that job, you could not say donation. Could not. Like, they would make you call the people back and do it over again if you said the word donation in that. So this is what I'm thinking, guys. Look, let this be a warning to anybody out there that still happens to have a good PayPal account. If you're telling people where to send you money, do not say the word donation. Just get it out of your vocabulary. So hopefully that's clear, and hopefully I'm right. But, even if I'm not right, I would do it just for good measure, because the last thing that you want to do is get in trouble for, in defrauding or whatever unintentionally. And of course, nobody's going to go out there and do that intentionally, but the law still applies to you even if you don't know it, right? And I would say that's true for the natural law, not so much for the man-made laws, especially the ones like, you can't say the word donate or blah, blah, blah. I mean, what kind of stupid legalese garbage is that? But I really do think that it's a very good possibility that is what happened to everyone's PayPal accounts. And I would not be surprised, knowing the tactics of the trolls, to do sort of a sweeping blanket campaign, hitting everybody at once, getting them good and riled up against PayPal, when in fact it was probably them complaining to PayPal that, and they would have proof, they would have proof, video proof of that person saying the word DONATE, right, if I spelled that right, on there, and then they sent them money and found out it was not tax deductible. So there you have it, folks. Maybe that's it, maybe not, but I'm still going to tell you, because don't ever say the word donate. Never. Right, so the French space program. Hey, dude, we need to make some memes about the French space program and how crappy they are. Like, NASA gobbles up French space programs every 16 days. So, like, French space programs are NASA's French fries. All right. So, okay, so yes, France's national space missions. Dude, that's like, what are they doing in France? Like, is space much, much closer and easier to get to in France than it is everywhere else? Because, like, how are you doing the whole space thing at $681.4 million, France? You know what I mean? Like, you know how hard it is to be NASA? I mean, really, do you know how hard it is to be NASA? And they only get $52 million a day. So, France, well, I guess it's really, really hard to be France. And even still, we're sitting here belittling $681 million a day in 2005. And, I'm sorry, folks, but I think we need to start factoring in inflation when we're going back at least 10 or 15 years. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure the price of gas has doubled in the last 10 years. Price of a loaf of bread has doubled. The value of the dollar has probably gone in half, right? And so we need to adjust this for inflation. Oh, and it's euros too, so whatever. $850 million plus the 1.5%, whatever. But, that's not a paltry sum. I mean, that's a couple $1 million every day that France has to basically, do absolutely nothing and send their laser beams up to space with NASA? Well, that must be pretty easy to be France, because NASA's doing all the work for them. And I'm just wondering, do we taxpayers who paid for that flight to space, do we get any of France's money if they did pay it? Because technically, that's our money. No sense in subsidizing NASA, right? France, with your paltry 600... I can't do a French accent anymore. I think I nailed it a couple times, but I'm just about to lose. I don't want to mess it up. So we'll keep going. All right, 19 SpaceX resupply mission. Oh, okay, so I'm going down here. Dude, this is a lot. Okay, so we did the first page. No, where am I at, man? I done lost my spot. Oh, man, maybe I'll just read the headlines. But, dude, there's some really, it is amazing. I think every single one of these, sans one, has some just ridiculous nonsense jargon and just convoluted, confusing terminology and acronyms and just things that you've never even come across before, spouted off NASA's tongue as if it were regular order of business. And then if you try to get the definition of that thing that they just said, it's even more of these long-ass, convoluted combinations of words that you've never seen before. Zebra, Vicky Zoo, right? NASA, God almighty. The NASA office, okay, unmodified audits, we read that. Highlights science. Yeah, NASA highlights science. Well, does that really need to be a headline? Because, NASA pretty much is the bona fide champions of science in the world, I believe. I think that they are second to none when it comes to sciencing, bruh. You know what I mean? Hard to be NASA. Okay, so where are we at? Resupply mission. So new companies join growing ranks of NASA partners for Artemis program. Huh. Well, ain't that a surprise? So we've got some more new companies that are certainly never, ever, ever run by Freemasons, joining the growing ranks of NASA partners for, I would just say, laundering money program. I'm going to come out and say it. That's what I think it is. Now, there is a bit of mythology here with the Artemis program. NASA loves their Greek gods. I think that's what Artemis was, wasn't it? Who was Artemis? Probably a money launderer from ancient Greece. Artemis, in Greek religion, the goddess of wild animals. Well, isn't that fitting? Because NASA is a bunch of wild animals, dude. They have no conscience. They'll bite you, they'll steal your babies, and then they'll drink your blood, dude. I mean, they are wild animals. They really are. Savages. Savages. The hunt and vegetation and chastity of childbirth. She was identified by the Romans with Diana. That's right, yeah, Artemis, Diana, same diff, same entity. Artemis was the daughter of Zeus and Leto, and the twin sister of Apollo. Yeah, Apollo from soul music fame, right? No, the other Apollo. Okay, so the goddess of wild animals. I think that is appropriate. And, maybe we should just start naming them. New companies join growing ranks of NASA partners for Wild Animals program. That would be better. Or I don't know, savage, wild, bloodthirsty, raping beast animals program. Okay. So NASA has added 5 American companies to the pool of vendors. I wonder if this little mini article will give us a list of these companies. I just wonder. Pool of vendors that will be eligible to bid. Oh, so these guys actually have to bid. Well, these guys might actually not be Masons if they're actually having to bid. I mean, because if you're in the Brotherhood, who has to bid on things, right? That's ridiculous. That's for you lowly level 1 capitalists. You need to level up before you can get to the no bid stuff. So these companies may be eligible to bid on proposals. Oh, they actually have to put forward proposals. They just don't get the contract for the giant R&D center by the whatever company, right? They don't just get the contracts before they even know how much it's going to cost. That must be pretty sweet. That's tantamount to a blank check from the American taxpayers, really. But yeah, so they can bid on proposals to provide deliveries to the surface of the moon. Oh God, well this just took a leap off a cliff. So wait a minute, wait. Okay, so they're definitely going to be Masons. I take that back. Oh, to surface of the moon through the agency's commercial, crazy lunar payload services. CLPS initiative. So let me read that again. I know it was a bit choppy, but that just hit me like a ton of bricks. So wait a minute. NASA has added 5. I wonder who these companies are. NASA has added 5 American companies to the pool of vendors that will be eligible to bid on proposals to provide deliveries to the, not the pool, not the post office, not Cleveland Outer Space, but the surface of the moon, as if through the agency's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative. Okay, so we really do need to look this up, and, you know, I guess my favorite acronym inventor was having a bad day today. He just used the standard typical letters, didn't come up with anything more creative than CLPS. I guess it's CLAPS, because this crap will give you gonorrhea if you keep watching it, I'm telling you. Okay, so let's see who these new 5 companies are. I'm just wondering who these companies are. I bet you they're very small businesses with only hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of gross annual sales, right? But, you know, NASA, I will just say, again, because this is highly annoying, your article thing here, why couldn't you have a link here, right here? It's very easy to do, not hard. A link right here that will take you to here so I don't have to go Google searching the terms that you have in your own article, NASA, and learn how to spell laser beam. NASA. I know it's hard to be NASA, but it's not that hard to spell laser. Right, so Commercial Lunar Payload Services. Oh my god. Dude, these web designers sure don't know how to spell, but they sure know how to add a lot of crap to a website. Not what I want to find either. So let's see. What are we looking for again? We're looking for the 5 companies, or any of the companies, that they are going to allow to bid on going to the moon, because I'm going to take a wild guess here. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that none of these 5 companies are ever going to actually deliver a single thing to the moon. Okay? Never going to happen. So when they bid on it, I wonder, you know, is it like most people? Do they have to put in some work before they even see a red cent, even though they're late on their bills and this and that? Or will it be, you know, this rich, small company with hundreds of millions of dollars in gross annuals and thousands of employees, we'll just go ahead and give them the money that they bid on successfully to start attempting to go deliver things to the moon, even if they never make it, right? So this isn't like normal people stuff where you have to deliver something of value before you get paid. You know, you have to deliver your end of the agreement before you get paid. You know, that's how life is, isn't it? Right? But no, not when it comes to NASA and their cronies, who are probably, you know, definitely run by Freemasons. No. See, these guys, what happens with these guys is they get these real big, juicy, fat contract bids awarded. And, you know, there's probably not much competition because, well, first of all, you'll never get it if you're not in the club. And second of all, who's ever going to try to deliver things to the moon but these Freemasons, right? They got that pretty much locked. So, you know, the whole thing, man, it's just, wow. Wow, like the bullshit is just piling on thick here, NASA. You know, it's hard to be NASA, but I'll tell you what, NASA is a damn good liar sometimes. Who are these damn companies, man? I'm sorry, I'm cussing like a sailor tonight. But I'm taking out some aggression, man. Seriously. It's been a rough day. No, so they're not going to tell us who these 5 companies are. So they're going to tell us that they're adding 5 companies to the bidding list, which I wonder if those 5 companies are going to get awarded bids. They're not going to tell us who they are, but they are going to tell us that they're considering them. I mean, that does not make any sense. That'd be like, hey, man, do you know what my favorite color is? Oh, you don't? Oh, okay. All right. We'll see you later, bro. All right. Peace. Never going to know. It's blue. All right. Preparing people to go. Oh, God, this just smells of BS. Let's read this one. Preparing people to go to the moon with NASA and their 5 very small, multi-million-dollar, thousands of employee companies who will be bidding on something that is completely inachievable and absurd. However, they will certainly be getting paid long before they ever deliver the first of anything to the moon, as if such a thing were possible. God, man. Okay, preparing... Oh, so look here. So when I clicked on preparing people to go, there's yet another menu of sidebars where there is yet another link for preparing people to go. So what is this? Is this a different version of the same place, or they have a link to the same page on that page? Now that would be some... Oh, it's slightly different. That is really... No, it's not. Okay, so NASA does not link their articles to the mentioned items in their articles, but they do link their web pages to the very same web page that you were just on. Very well done there, NASA web designers. You guys are pros. Can't spell laser beam, no hyperlinks. Hyperlinks to the same page you started on. My God, man. I know people who could do this for $10 a day. $52 million a day. Wow. I forgot, though. It is hard to be NASA, so you got to give them credit, man. Students design prototypes. So look at this. I mean, so this whole page, preparing people to go, is just a collage. It's a collage of pictures. So preparing people to go to the moon is a collage of pictures. Haha. Well, that's fairly typical NASA for you. As humans travel farther from the Earth, we must learn how to sustain human life in the extreme environment of space at the moon in preparation for human missions to Mars. Yeah, the extreme environment of space that the Voyager 2 can go, 11 billion miles? Or was it 100 billion? I don't even know. Just billions and billions and billions of miles. With 1970s technology, with no maintenance, with no shutdowns, no downtime, perfect operation, buzzing like a charm for decade after decade after decade after decade, and still not even expected to quit ticking for another 5 or 10 years at least, maybe another 150 million years if NASA has their way. But yeah, so extreme environment of space that has basically no effect on NASA's technology in space, right? Yeah, very extreme environment there, NASA, right? So, yeah, they're basically just tooting their own horn, trying to create this illusion that they're actually going to one day send these deliveries to the moon. And wait a minute, if they're sending deliveries to the moon, like, who are they delivering it to? I don't even know what they're delivering. I don't think they're going to tell us what they're delivering. They're just going to be delivering stuff to the moon with nobody on there because, you know, nobody always needs lots of stuff delivered to them, right? Because nobody's got to have their stuff. God, NASA. Like, what a blatant... This agency is the most blatantly wasteful agency ever. I swear they are. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's been worse. Like, I don't know. Well, I'm not going to speculate. So, how will NASA protect astronauts from space radiation at the moon? Well, I would say there's no such thing as space. So there is no such thing as space radiation, and you can't go to the moon. So NASA will protect astronauts from space radiation at the moon by, well, doing absolutely nothing. Pretty easy, right? But it'll cost a lot. Hell of a lot. Billions of dollars over the years. Billions. Hundreds of billions. You know, gonna cost a pretty penny, but you don't really have to do anything because... You know, that'd be like, let me protect myself from unicorns today, because you never know when you're going to get run over by a unicorn. I need my unicorn repellent. And, you know, for all I care, my unicorn repellent could be this ashtray. You know what? I think it's about time for a smoke, isn't it, guys? And it's a cigarette. It's a cigarette. I don't smoke dank. Can't stand Chiba. Don't smoke cess. All right. How NASA will protect. And don't you love that? What is this, Apollo footage? So, isn't it so funny? So, basically, how they're going to prepare people to go to the moon is pictures and propaganda. That's about the size of it. I mean, they've been doing it a long time. They know what they're doing, right? I mean, these guys have the entire world so snowed that they believe these lies that just fall apart, dude. Like, when you start looking at how bad NASA is with this gross wastefulness and just arrogance and scientific posturing. It is pretty disgusting, dude. So, oh wow, man, this is probably my favorite acronym of the day. MEDLI2. MEDLI2. Yeah, MEDLI2. So this is just a middle-sized lie. It's not a big lie. It's only like $20 billion. Okay, MEDLI2 installation on Mars 2020. Aeroshell begins. Dude, that sounds like a new Mario Kart bomb, dude. An Aeroshell. I want to get one of those. Is that the blue one? Okay, so these actually have hyperlinks. I'm not going to click on them. New study selections on astronaut adaptation to Moon and Mars missions. Maven spacecraft shrinking its orbit to prepare for Mars 2020. Shrinking in its orbit. Because you know how we love to expand and shrink our orbits with these little generic tin cans that have pretty much no propulsion capabilities, no fuel. Oh, I'm sorry, they have those exclusive NASA energy cells that are not used for any practical applications in real life, only in space. Oh, and don't forget the Russian lighthouses in the Antarctic, right? Those are, very accessible to your average Joe to confirm that they actually exist. Maven spacecraft shrinking its orbit. And, I just have such problems with orbit, so maybe this is actually a good segue into the orbital section. And I wish I could pull up some diagrams and some animations for you guys, but frankly, it'll just crap the stream out. I'm not even going to try. But this whole thing with orbit, maybe I should do these last two, and then we'll get into orbits. Let me write that down because, yeah, I don't want to forget where I was at. Oh, and of course, I don't have a pen. I'm very old-fashioned, so I'll just write it in my blood. Okay. Just guys remind me that if I was like, oh, I forgot what I was going to say, just say it was about the problems with orbits, okay? Send me a telepathy message because I can't see the chat. You'll have to talk to me using the Jedi mind trick. But don't try any of that coercion on me. It doesn't work. That only works on weak minds. Oh, man, CLPS initiative. So, okay, here we go. The last, second to last. NASA to announce. Oh, Lord, what is NASA going to announce? Oh, man, I just can't. I don't even know if I can read it. Additional commercial moon delivery providers. So that's 2 stories? So we have 2 stories. Or did I already read this? Wait. 5 American. Oh, I did. Did I read all these? Oh, no. Wait. Additional. Wait a minute. No, that isn't. So these are. Okay, so wait a minute. There's 2 articles in a row. I mean, come on now. If this was a kindergarten essay, you would fail for redundancy. Unless I'm maybe just being a little bit quick to judge, but that's what it appears to me. New companies joining growing ranks of NASA partners for Artemis program. And that is, again, the Wild Animal God program. Remember, it's very important. NASA to announce additional commercial moon delivery providers. Okay, now they use the word moon in this, so maybe they would get credit for both, but they're essentially the same thing. The first one says NASA has added 5 American companies to the pool of vendors that will be eligible to bid on proposals to provide deliveries to the surface of Cleveland outer space, no, the moon, through the agency's Commercial Lunar Payload Services, CLPS initiative. That was one hell of a sentence. But then the second one right below that is NASA to announce additional commercial moon delivery providers. Okay, well that's not the Artemis program? Or the Artemis program is not going to the moon just in the headlines? Well, let's read. NASA will host a media teleconference. Oh, well, that's a little different. At 4:30 p.m. Eastern Monday to announce additional American companies joining the competitive pool for delivery services to the surface of the moon through the agency's Commercial Lunar Payload Services CLPS project. No mention of the Wild Animal Goddess program, so they are being a little bit sneaky, but fail for redundancy, NASA. So, dude, not only is this website full of lies, full of misspellings, full of grammatical errors, full of propaganda, full of pictures to prove how they're prepping people to go to space. They give you pictures of propaganda because you know how that works. Why? All right, and then the next article. So that's just ridiculous. I mean, seriously, you guys. If I am not even paid to do this and I'm finding all of these errors in NASA's website, does that mean that there's actually nobody proofing this stuff? For $50 million a day, they can't even keep their website, at least passable on a kindergarten essay? Come on, NASA. I know it's hard to be NASA, man, but you got to start putting in some effort, bro. Vice President Pence to visit NASA's Ames Research Center. Well, that's newsworthy. That's very newsworthy. They're going to space. They're going to the moon. They're sending people to the moon. They're sending people to the moon again. Maybe not. And Vice President Trump is coming to the Ames Research Center. Very newsworthy. So, Vice President Mike Pence, as if you didn't know who the Vice President was, along with NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine. Oh, they got a new administrator? Let's see this guy's picture. I mean, if I'm going to get fucked, I'd like to see who it is. You know what I mean? Now, I know the last guy looked like Uncle Ben from the Rice, but let's see this guy. What does he look like? Images. Jim Bridenstine. Yeah, he looks like an asshole. That's for sure. Definitely. Let's get a big picture of him. Oh, wow. Look at that grill, man. Okay, so this is the guy above all other candidates. This is the guy that's running the show at NASA. He's got a very trustworthy looking face. Probably is a nice guy. Probably not a Freemason. Just saying. But I will guarantee you one thing. This man here will never, ever, even attempt or even pretend to attempt to go to space. Okay? So in his case, perhaps there's a chance that he has some degree of plausible deniability that he is not culpable in this massive, massive fraud on the taxpayer. And now, since we're on the topic of fraud, the amount of fraud that NASA's doing is just astronomical. You can't calculate it. Dude, it's ridiculous. It's been going on for so long. It's the large amounts. It's in the quadrillions of dollars. But this guy here, he's probably not culpable. And even if he was, nothing would ever happen to him or his bank accounts. However, if flat earthers use the word, and this is my sort of theory, my hypothesis, but I do have a good gut instinct, let me tell you. If my theory is correct about the whole PayPal thing, the whole donate thing, right? So you're telling me that PayPalers are going to have their accounts taken away, their money seized, and basically their lives, in many cases, quite ruined for misspeaking? Misspeaking, okay? And not to mention some butthole on the other end of this thing going and deliberately doing this. What a scumbag, right? But, yeah, so this guy here, nothing will ever happen to him, though. And they steal, well, $52 million a day. Because, misspeaking the word donate is way, way worse than stealing $52 million every single day from the taxpayers, isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, the punishment needs to fit the crime, doesn't it? So we need to get these flat earthers misspeaking, and we need to give NASA more money every single day. They can't get enough money. And you know what? They might as well give us France's money too, because France ain't doing diddly squat in space. Free loading on our laser beam rides. Ha ha ha! France praise program! That was terrible. I know. Remember, I can't hear myself. Okay, so that was that, wasn't it? Oh, did I even say? Okay, so what was the whole point of this? Oh, yeah, that's right. We were looking at that guy. So NASA's administrator, along with the vice president, who shall not be named, will visit NASA's Ames Research Center in California's Silicon Valley Thursday, November 14th, to discuss the role the center will play in the agency's plans to return astronauts to the moon. I wonder, do these guys, and I bet they do, Jim Bridenstine and the vice president Shirley, do these guys get free lunches when they visit Ames Research Center? I mean, isn't that a bit of a bonus too? Because, it's very hard to afford lunch when you're NASA. So they get free lunch. I'm absolutely certain of it. It's probably good too. Yep. Because they just don't make enough money to have to pay for their own lunch. And as a matter of fact, I think I'll give them my last 74 cents tomorrow too. Okay. So basically this little last article, because who the hell is ever going to read down to here, right? Honestly, if anybody but me has ever read down to here this stuff, I would be very surprised. And we're going to go through all 3 pages. No, I don't know. Dude, this is taking 2 hours to go through 1 page. That's ridiculous. All right. Vice President, I say that, to discuss the role the center will play in the agency's plans to return astronauts to the moon. Okay, so wait a minute. This is newsworthy, NASA? This is newsworthy. The administrator and the vice president are going to have a discussion to discuss the role that the center will play. I mean, do they really need to fly all these bureaucrats out there to eat free lunch to do this? Couldn't they just have a webinar? Couldn't they have a Skype chat? I mean, I know that wouldn't be as grandiose as spending millions of dollars on toilet seats and, millions of dollars on free lunches for the nassholes. But yeah, I think they could have Skyped this one, dude. Really. And I know. It's much more easier to rape the general public when you're together in person behind closed doors. But, come on, man. Can't you give us a break sometimes? Little grease, at least? Skip the free lunch, NASA? Come on, now. I do got to see. What is on page 2? Because if page 1 is that bad, is this just older? Or is this getting... Oh, yeah, it's going further off into the future. So I bet you, if you were to go further off into the future, you would find more and more no-bid contracts, or evidence of no-bid contracts, cronyism, companies not run by Freemasons who are really quite small businesses with a mere $678 million in annual gross and just about 3,000 employees. The really small businesses. Mom and pop stuff, right? All right, so this better be good, NASA. Article 1 of page 2 of latest NASA news releases. This just in. Media invited to Artemis Day unveiling of moon mission rocket stage. Oh my God. So NASA is now putting articles about their own pageantry. I mean, isn't that a bit much, NASA? Articles about your own pageantry? I mean, is that really science, dude? And you know, maybe if you would have worked on spelling laser beam better, you wouldn't have had to write this stuff, dude. Media and social media influencers. I hate that word. Influencers. I mean, it's not a bad word or anything. I just, you know, social media influencers. Like, I'm going to influence you. I'm going to influence you to buy things from moi. I'm going to be a good capitalist and use my social media platform to influence you to buy things from me. Ha ha ha. But you influencers are invited to NASA's McCloud Assembly Facility in New Orleans Monday, December 9th for Artemis Day. And remember, Artemis Day is Wild Animal Goddess Day. So let's just keep that in mind. I think Wild Animal Goddess Day is much better. McCloud Stennis. I don't know what that means. McCloud/Stennis. I don't know. NASA TV coverage set for complex spacewalks and briefings. Now this seems pretty newsworthy. Because you know how spacewalks, that's something that hardly ever happens. Like, I mean, what would we do if they were playing that over reruns of I Love Lucy? We might have to call NASA and complain. 2 astronauts will venture outside the International Limobile for a series of complex spacewalks this month and next to repair the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, a cosmic ray detector. Haha. You know, I would watch these spacewalks if it was like X Games spacewalks where they had skateboards and they're doing tricks and stuff. But to watch these guys like pretend to be in space and like have sword fights with each other and like blow bubbles out into the water pool, I mean, you know, it gets kind of boring. So I think that they need to spice it up a little bit, NASA. I'd like to see Tony Hawk in space doing spacewalks. At least I know he'll probably be honest, unless he's like not a Freemason. I don't know, man. I don't think Tony Hawk's a Freemason, is he? He's like a badass skater. So I don't think there's many badass skaters that are, you know, Freemasons. I think there's less flat Earth capitalists than there are whatever skaters. You know what the hell I'm saying. I didn't lost my train of thought. All right, so here we go. 2 astronauts. No, I read that. Boeing's Starliner completes pad abort test for commercial crew. Pad abort test. Dude, this stuff sounds like this guy, whoever wrote these names for the activities, the space activities, has a little bit of his mind in the gutter, if you know what I mean. Pad abort test. Goodness gracious. Boeing CST-100 Starliner spacecraft has completed a critical safety milestone on Monday in an end-to-end test of its abort system. Well, who gives a flying fuckaroonie? Like, seriously, is that really news, dude? Oh my God. Okay, so I'm about done here, but man, that's just fun for hours and hours, isn't it? NASA lies never gets old, I'm telling you. Okay, so the one thing I know that I told you guys to send me a mental signal if I don't forget is about the problems with Orbit. Okay, and I lost my little piece of paper with my notes on it, so wow, that sucks. I just had it. Anyway, so the Orbit, there's problems with it, man. Big problems, and I've highlighted these in videos, but the long and short of it is this. You know, the nice little circular or elliptical orbits that we see in diagrams and animations, you know, they kind of work when the sun is stationary and it's just the Earth going around the sun. But when you put the sun into motion around the galaxy and the galaxy in motion through the universe, as they claim, then some problems arise, okay? And what this problem is that there is such a thing as relative motion and relative speed, right? So, like, let's say I am in the back of a pickup truck, right? Going 50 miles an hour down the highway. If I take a running leap, and say you're in a vacuum too, so forget about the air. There's no air, it's a vacuum. If I take a running leap off the back of the pickup truck, I am going to be a good distance from the pickup truck before I splat against the pavement, okay? So, because, of course, the pickup truck is going in the opposite direction as me, and I'm going in the opposite direction as the pickup truck. If you've ever sat in the back of a truck and spit towards the rear, not towards the front, you'd be kind of silly to do that, you'll find that the spit will land dozens and dozens of feet behind the truck because you get this relative motion, this relative speed, right? However, if you were to do the same thing in a vacuum and run forward toward the front of the truck somehow and jump off the front, you're not going to make it very far before you get run over by the truck, right? So there is this thing in physical reality called relative motion and relative speed. It applies to all things everywhere, no matter what. It is an immutable law of nature. However, when it comes to orbital theory, we rational-minded people are expected to believe that these laws of relative motion simply do not apply, cannot apply, must not apply, because their model falls apart when you actually apply these immutable laws of physics to it. So here's the best example that I can come up with to demonstrate this. So the moon, and we don't need to be exact, but the moon, they say, goes around the spherical globular Earth that has Cleveland outer space on it. But the moon goes around this ball Earth once every about 28 days. They say like 27 and change, I believe. 28, right? And basically, they claim that the moon is going around this ball Earth at a uniform speed. Now, not only is it going around this ball Earth at a uniform speed, but it is also spinning on its axis once at the exact rate that it takes the moon to go around the Earth one single time. So it is perfectly, and I mean perfectly, never even strayed a smidgen from perfect ever in all of history. You have a perfect synchronization of the moon's rotational velocity and orbital velocity in terms of rotations per time. So again, it's 28 days for one orbit, 28 days for one rotation, right? Okay, so what this means is that one day you'll have a half moon that's to, say, the left or the rear of the Earth's trajectory, right? And then 14 days later, you'll have a half moon that's in front of the moon's trajectory. Now, keep in mind, remember what we just sort of discussed about the spitting or jumping off the pickup truck example, right? Now, for the first leg of this journey, so we're going from the half moon behind the Earth's trajectory to the half moon in front of the Earth's trajectory, it takes it 14 days. Now, during this trajectory, the moon is literally racing against the Earth, which, by the way, the Earth is supposedly far, far faster than the moon by many orders. It takes it 14 days to do this half moon to half moon leg, right? 14 days later, it also takes the moon exactly, dead on balls exactly, 14 days to get to the original position that we started at. Okay? Now keep in mind, during this leg of the orbit, the Earth and the moon are allegedly traveling in opposite directions. So this would be very much like jumping off of the back of the moving pickup truck. So basically, this whole notion that the moon could somehow be traveling at a consistent speed is frankly impossible. Okay, it's not possible. Okay, that would be like saying it's just as easy to race against a pickup truck that you're racing in the same direction as. It's just that easy as it is to race against a pickup truck that you're traveling on opposite directions on the freeway as. I mean, it is absurd. Okay, but here's the thing. In order for this 14-day half moon to half moon and 14-day back half moon to half moon orbit to work, then the moon must necessarily be accelerating many, many times in order to pass out in front of the Earth, along the outside of the track no less, to find its way in front of the Earth's trajectory 14 days later. During the next 14 days, the moon would literally need to stop or even go backwards in order to assure that the Earth's 66600-mile velocity will not completely cause the moon to fly off the back of the pickup truck like a piece of spit. Okay? So, and people will say, well, everything's moving at the same speed, but that's ridiculous. The moon is going around the Earth, allegedly. Now, here's the other kicker to this, though, because it's already completely screwed. Orbital mechanics does not work in physical reality. It's not possible. But the moon is such a great example because, again, they don't claim that this orbit is perfectly circular. It's elliptical. It's, it's a little wider. It's like oblate, right? It's elliptical. But so that means, because, let me back this up. If it was going in a perfect circle, and the Earth were stationary, then yes, the moon could do its little orbit and rotating synchronization thing without doing any sort of changes. That would be a perfect sort of zero deviation from that perfectly circular orbit, right? And everything works. But when you put the Earth in motion and you make the moon's orbital path elliptical, as they say, we'll just talk about the elliptical part, it necessarily means that the moon must also be accelerating and decelerating at different times depending on where it is in the arc of this ellipse, right? Furthermore, it must also be deviating its rotational speed in order to assure that it is perfectly synchronized with its accelerating and decelerating orbital velocity, which this is absurd, people. It's absurd. There's no way, dude. There's no way. Again, space, the moon allegedly does not have any sort of brakes. It doesn't have any sort of accelerator, no steering wheel. It just has gravity, and that's it. Chaos. Chaos and gravity. Gotta have chaos, right? But so, in order for this to work, as they say, with the Earth in motion, and forget about the sun's motion, forget about the galaxy's motion, which definitely would come into play here as well. It absolutely would, to greater orders of magnitude. Forget about that, though. In order for what they're saying to work, the moon must necessarily be accelerating and decelerating wildly, depending on the time of the month and depending on the time of the year. This would not be, a straight line linear thing. It would constantly be fluctuating. It would also need to accelerate and decelerate its rotation velocity. And so their claim that the moon travels at a consistent speed and rotates at a consistent speed is thus debunked. It is physically not possible, as they say, because, again, of the things that I mentioned. So, orbital mechanics is a big, fat lie. I mean, and we flat earthers know that. But, the thing is, man, the globe Earth is a lie, for sure. But when you examine every single portion of it, every single portion, every little last bit of it, it is definitely exposed as a lie. And so what are we left with, man? Well, we're left with, and this is sort of the next thing that I'll talk about, so perfect segue there, Yanni boy. Damn, I can't even read my own writing. That's pretty bad. NASA immigration? I don't know what that means. Oh, well, yeah, I think I read that one. Okay. So this is something that's come up a lot, and this is something that I think is really yet another flimsy so-called evidence for the globe. And this one goes out to one of the most famous surfers in the world. Not going to say any names because I don't want to get anyone killed, but let's just say famous surfers in the world are considering flat Earth. They are probably still GlobeTards. However, maybe they'll see this stream and scratch their head and say, Morgile's an asshole. No, whatever. So, let's see here. Yeah, the bottom lit clouds. So basically, here's the thing, and maybe I'll find a picture of this. Let me close some of this NASA lies. All this bullshit's clogging up my memory. I don't need that. Oh, okay, I need those. All right, no, I don't even want to look at these. Well, you guys would much rather look at NASA propaganda than you would look at my boring screen, wouldn't you? Right. Bottom lit clouds. This is like the be-all, end-all globe Earth proof when it comes to the most famous surfers in the world, bro. This is their thing. This is their harping point. So here we go. Here's a good example with a nice little curly Q spiral cloud. It's something you don't see every day. Oh, what? Trying to sell me pens when I'm trying to look at spirally curly Q bottom-lit clouds? Oh, that's not a pen. That's a lightsaber. Huh. Space is fake, even in Star Wars 2. That's a shame. Can't even watch it. Not because of the actress, who might just be a tranny, who plays the new Luke Skywalker or whatever. Might be a tranny. Probably is a tranny. Just saying. Sun lit up at the bottom. So, dude, why has Google banned making pictures full screen? When did that happen? I don't get it. Can't you slide this over? You can't even slide this over. That is so, Google. Your improvements are ruining your site, let me tell you. And I know this has been here for a while, but does anyone else remember when you'd click on a Google image and it would just come up full screen for you? So here we go. You can see the sun is down here, and these clouds are lit from down here. Now, what the globe earthers are saying is that the sunlight is lighting up the clouds from the bottom. Therefore, the Earth is a globe because the sun is at that angle where you see it there. The sun is lighting the clouds from that angle. Therefore, the sun is right there exactly where you see it because our eyes will never, ever, ever be deceived, and light always, always, always travels in straight lines. Doesn't it, GlobeTards? Doesn't it, famous surfers? No, it doesn't. So, and I know, Bob, I think you're still in there, maybe not, but Bob Nodell doesn't like this one as much as I do. This is one of my favorite, not experiments, but scientific activities or demonstration activities. And if you just YouTube search sugar laser water, you'll find it. Some nice Indian fellows, doctors, who I do not believe are even flat earthers. This is just a demonstration of refraction, which modern science has known about for allegedly about 400 years. I think since the 15 or 1600s, maybe 500 years, whatever. Wow, so I didn't even do my search yet. Don't you love this computer? Sugar water, laser, YouTube. Okay, here we go. Arvind Gupta. Arvind Gupta. Got a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Rolls off the tongue. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Yeah. That jacked-ass guy doesn't make enough money doing movies, so he has to do hefty commercials? What a whore. He's such a good capitalist. Alright, here we go. Oh, why am I muted? So we've definitely got to hear Arvind
as the density
Gupta.
increases.
Alright, here we go.
This very beautiful experiment, you can actually see light bend as the density increases.
Oh, come on.
You need a fish tank, 250 grams of sugar, put 3 liters of water.
Don't you love how he's like 250 grams of sugar? Not just put a bunch of sugar in there. It's 250 grams because this is scientific.
Tank about half full and add 250 grams of sugar. Please do not stir the mixture. Leave it like this for about 24 to 48 hours. Let the sugar dissolve on itself. And as this happens, there would be a density gradient. The water at the lower level of the fish tank would be slightly denser. Now shine a laser beam, and as you bring it lower down, the light will bend. You see, the light is bending and becomes straighter and straighter. If you bring it down, the light bends because of the density of the sugar solution is higher below. And the bending of the light can be seen more clearly in a dark room.
Okay, so basically there it is. Oh, and perfect place to pause it. And I'll tell you, every time I hear that guy talk, I get a craving for curry. And I'm not even, like, I'm not being racist or anything. I love curry, but I don't know. It's just something about it, man. I've stayed in a lot of Hindu hotels or Hindu-owned hotels, and man, they have always got some curry cooking, boy, I'll tell you. So yeah, anyway. This is it, man. This is a demonstration of light bending through a density gradient, which is definitely a thing, okay? And it's not just density gradients, it can be temperature gradients, and they're not just necessarily oriented in this sort of way. I mean, they might be oriented vertically or any combination, right? So, you know, this conception that many people have, including Eratosthenes, and all of the people who believe they see ships going over a curve, the conception that they have is that light always, only, ever travels in perfectly straight lines, okay? And that goes back to Eratosthenes. Now again, refraction was discovered at like the 15 or 1600s, it's irrelevant, but nobody until today, you know, this century, has ever gone and revisited Eratosthenes' assumptions. That one of those big-ass assumptions is that light only ever travels in perfectly straight line paths. Okay? Now, the fact of the matter is, light does not travel in perfectly straight line paths to infinity, especially when traveling through temperature and density and material and particulate gradients, okay? Which the atmosphere certainly contains. So let's go back to this very tiny image that I wish could be bigger, so I am sorry, and I don't want to start trying to finagle it because then it'll take me to some other page. It takes too long. So this is what's happening. That's exactly what's happening here. Now, first of all, let's just map this out a little bit. So you can tell there definitely is atmosphere all around you in every direction, up and in front of you, all the way to the horizon. And basically, this atmosphere, from your perspective, no matter where you are, it moves along with you subjectively. This atmosphere behaves as a near-perfect convex lens in all directions, equidistantly around you. Okay? Depending on atmosphere conditions, it may be different, but basically a bubble around you of atmosphere that is perturbing light as it comes towards you, right? Okay. So essentially, what this does, this bubble of lens that follows you around wherever you go, is it bends the light from the sun to create an illusion that we call the apparent sun. So in this image, where you see the sun, you know, just peeking over that mountaintop, that could not, absolutely could not, be the actual directional position of the sun. It couldn't. Whether the Earth is sphere or flat, it could not be where the sun is. That is an apparent subjective rendering of the sun according to your perspective. So if you were to place another observer, say, I don't know, 50 miles to the west, they would have a completely different pretty similar, but it would be completely different perspective towards the sun due to their subjective atmospheric bubble that follows them around wherever they go. Now, what the light is doing, and Jeranism had found a pretty good tool that shows exactly how this works, and you can you can manipulate the density levels, the gradient levels, So it's a pretty cool tool. But basically, what's going on here is the light from the sun is just like this laser beam here is bouncing around through the atmosphere. And so, let's say that this is the apparent position of the sun, right? This laser. So we're sort of looking at this as a cross section, 90 degrees turn, right? So in the original image, we'd be standing over here to the right side of it, right? But assuming that this is the sun, let me start that over. Assuming, hopefully you can hear me still, assuming that this is the sun peeking over the mountain, and this is the light from the sun coming down towards the observer, and then this is the ocean where you can see the refraction causes it to angle its way down, then the light bounces off of the surface, and it would, if there was a cloud right here, it would be lit from below using this laser beam right here. So does that mean that that fish tank is a sphere, GlobeTards? Professional surfers? Most famous surfers in the world? Ever? No, it is not a sphere, dude. Just because light bends does not make anything that it bends through a sphere. Okay, light is malleable. And, let's just bring this full circle to Eratosthenes, because this is a big, big point. Eratosthenes is infamous with flat earthers, and, well, famous with GlobeTards, but they really don't even know his name, or what exactly he did, or how to do it, or the details, or what he accomplished, or any of the assumptions that went into it. They just know that the ancient Greek, that they don't know his name, proved the Earth was a globe using, the high technology of the ancient Greeks, which was a hole in the ground and a stick in the ground. Very high-tech stuff, let me tell you. Okay, now, using this method, where I believe it was on the equinox in two cities, Syene and Alexandria, somehow this guy, Eratosthenes, took a measurement of the shadow angle at high noon in one spot where there was a well, and you know the story. And he established that there was a 90-degree angle between the well and the sun. So the sun was directly overhead of the well. And at the same time, on the same day, well, not really the same day, a year later when he went there next year, because the movement of the galaxy and the solar systems doesn't make a shit in any of this, right? But then a year later, on the same day, he goes to the other city with a stick in the ground. That's probably the pinnacle of Greek technology. And he measures the shadow angle of that, and using this method, he's able to basically create a right triangle of light between the Earth and the sun. Okay? Now, the first problem with this is that his assumption is incorrect. The light from the sun cannot possibly be traveling in straight lines, so his entire main premise is kaput right off the bat. Okay, it's done. There is no Eratosthenes experiment once you understand refraction. Okay, it's ridiculous. But then, what the other thing that he must do in order to prove that the Earth is a sphere, he must first assume that the Earth is in fact a sphere, and basically adjust his measurements to compensate for this hypothesis that the Earth is a sphere. And by doing this sort of shady science, I know Nathan Oakley probably would just kill Eratosthenes. I mean, look what he did to everybody else who set the word experiment improperly. Love you, Nathan Oakley. But yeah, man, it's like Eratosthenes was all kinds of wrong. I mean, ridiculously wrong. It's pretty sad, really. But still to this day, the GlobeTards love to bring up Eratosthenes because even the ancient Greeks knew the Earth was, I was going to say flat. Knew the Earth was a ball, dumb flat earthers. But I would say that the ancient Greeks also knew nothing of refraction. Okay, that wasn't even discovered by science according to the mainstream narrative until I think 1650, I believe, right? And nobody ever bothered to go back and say, well, wait a minute, if light doesn't travel in straight lines, then doesn't that sort of put a monkey wrench in Eratosthenes' mechanisms? No, it doesn't matter. We'll just keep saying Eratosthenes was right. It's much easier to say that. And by the way, we'll say Einstein was right about everything too. Okay, now, so there's lots of problems already. And I love to mention this directly after that because it just blows it out of the water. Yes, there's more, folks. Okay, so changing the gears a little bit, same topic, right? Keep it in mind. During solar eclipses, total solar eclipses, the shadow of the moon is often 50 to 100 miles in diameter, and it has oftentimes been as little, 3 times in recorded history, has been as little as 2 or 3 miles in diameter. So we're talking about the shadow of the moon, allegedly 250,000 miles away, 1,000-mile radius object or whatever, casting a shadow that is a pinprick, relatively speaking, which is quite the opposite of how light and shadow actually behaves in reality. But who cares about that, right? Space fakers? Okay? But the thing is, in order for this to work, they call it the penumbra phenomenon, right? In order for this to work, the light from the sun must be attacking the moon at a steep angle. A steep angle, because it creates essentially, a hypothetical, non-existent, impossible situation where the shadow from the moon tapers off into a point, and the only way that works is the sunlight allegedly intersects with itself at some point in space, and then hits the moon at some bizarre angle that allows this impossible thing to occur. So that's what they say in order to patch over the fact that the moon's shadow is really quite too small. Because in fact, it should be, the moon's shadow during an eclipse should be, at the very least, the diameter of the actual moon, according to them. So 1,000 miles or whatever, at least. It could probably be more, but never less than the moon's diameter, if we're going to consider how light and shadow actually work in reality. Now, when you consider the fact that, a couple times in history, the moon's shadow during total solar eclipses was a couple miles in diameter, then this shows to me, unless there's not some severe lensing going on with the atmosphere, which is possible, but it suggests to me that the moon could be as little as 2 or 3 miles in diameter, okay? Because again, an object casting a shadow, that shadow can never be smaller than that object, unless there's lensing involved. So maybe there's a bit of that, but I don't think that's going to be too much, man. Okay? But, if we can actually determine the actual angular size of the moon, then we can very easily determine its distance. Now, if you use Eratosthenes' method and assume a flat Earth, so we won't assume a globe Earth, we'll assume a flat Earth, you still have issues with refraction, okay? Because you do not have an actual position on the sun. You have a subjective apparent position of the sun, which is necessarily not accurate. Necessarily. Okay? Now, maybe for the 90 degrees position, there may be zero refraction in some cases. Okay? So maybe there's no refraction there. But when it comes to the second angle, where there is a bit of a wider angle from the stick to the sun, I'm getting tapped on the shoulder and I lost my train. Can you please not do that while I'm talking? Please? What do you need? Okay, sorry. Well, shit, I just totally lost my train of thought. Love you, babe. But anyway, the point is, man, Eratosthenes was all kinds of wrong, not even a little bit wrong, all the way wrong. His assumptions were wrong. His main premise was wrong. His understanding of refraction was, abysmal, non-existent. And to call that science is, I think that I would build a time machine just to send Nathan Oakley back there to get Eratosthenes. I'm telling you, man. Experiment. So, famous surfers, GlobeTards, if you want to use the bottom lit clouds evidence for a sphere, then I guess you must also call this, fish tank a sphere, because it's the same principle going on here. Okay? And, you can say, well, I thought you said it was a bubble of atmosphere around you. Well, if you were a little microscopic speck in the bottom of this fish tank, you too would have a little bubble of atmosphere around you. And you can kind of see that as this light passes through the atmosphere, it does scatter out and sort of fades out away from the center of the beam. And so that's exactly, if you're sitting down here, you're going to have a different perspective of this light source than if you're over here. Okay, and yes, you can light the bottoms of clouds with a laser. Well, not clouds, but you can light the bottoms of things in this sort of a fashion with a laser beam, simply using refraction that also definitely exists in reality on the flat and stationary Earth, created by God, the Almighty Creator of all things, visible and invisible. Okay, so this is so weak, though, man. And when I found out that this was one of the biggest arguments that a surfing god has against the flat Earth, it is Flimsy, dude. It's very flimsy because, I mean, honestly, and I'm going to be very honest here. When I first started looking into flat Earth, I read Zetetic Astronomy. Robotham decided that it was not even necessary to consider refraction when doing the Eratosthenes experiment, assuming a flat Earth. And by the way, using the raw values from the Eratosthenes experiment, assuming a flat Earth, you get a result of the sun being about 35 miles in diameter, about 35 miles in altitude. Okay? However, when the light is passing through the atmosphere, there is a lensing effect, much like a magnifying glass. So the angular size of the sun is not necessarily correct either. So, when we see the sun, we think that we have a straight line of sight towards the actual sun, and nothing could be further from the truth. That is, well, it's not our eyes playing tricks on us. It is light simply not traveling in straight lines, and our eyes pick up light. Whatever the hell light is, okay? And that's a whole nother can of worms. I think we should do another video, not today for sure, but we'll do another one going over the speed of light again, because that's another huge one that's just scientismic nonsense that's ingrained into the, scientism record. But, man, I really like this picture because not only do we get the bottom-lit clouds, but this sun behind the mountain here is somehow lighting this lake from the top. So how does that work on a ball, right? The sun's like way over here, and light only ever always travels in straight lines. So how is that light going through the mountain, duder? Yeah, this is not adding up unless you realize that light refracts, period. We've known it since the 1600s, and yet we're only now just applying it to critical, skeptical, zetetic examination of reality. Speaking of Zetetic, make sure and check out Zetetic News Network, ZNN, with my buddies Zach and Dave. I'm going to be doing a hangout with those guys pretty soon. Also, be on the lookout for a couple of really interesting hangouts with some flat Earth authors. So, I'll give you one of them now, Douglas Falk, and we're going to be talking to him within the next couple of weeks. He's got a book out. He sent me a copy of it, and I'll be honest, I haven't really read much of it. But I did just move on Thanksgiving, and I almost got killed chasing a receipt today. So I have excuses, boy. Right? Okay, so here's my little notes. I found them. I think that's everything, dude. It only took 2.5 hours. That's not bad. I was planning on going an hour, but you know what? I put you guys through hell this morning, listening to me very poorly trying to get my headset to work. That I truly did plan ahead and bought a day early and tested and failed miserably and ruined my day. But you know what? It was totally worth it because I think this 2.5 hour live stream has nailed it. Okay, so let me check in on the chat, see how you guys are doing. Wow, pretty light chat there. I guess I've had you guys compelled. If nobody talks at dinner, I guess that means the food is good. So we'll go with that. Although a little bit more chats might help the algorithms, guys. Goodness. Oh, really? A web page is slowing down my browser? Oh, I guarantee you it's NASA. Because, NASA can't afford optimization of their website. No. They can't even spell laser. Can't even put links to their own pages. And when they do put links to their pages, it takes you to the same page that you were on already.
Because they can't remember their lives.
Yeah, that's the other thing. NASA, well, that's with any liar. Liars, if you tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said because you always know what the truth is or what you believe the truth to be. Now, if you lie all the time, it gets kind of hard to keep up with all the lies because, we all know how that goes. Even little white lies, like, I've said this one before, like, my wife asked me on our wedding day, is this pimple on my nose noticeable? And I was like, nope. But, yeah, that was a lie, and it came back and bit me in the ass later. Oh, wow. So, but anyway, yeah, so when they can't keep up with their lies, it's like this, man. How long are they going to keep doing this? If I were NASA, what I would do is I would kill myself. I would put out an article that the ISS crashed and that there's a wall of fire around the Earth, just like there is a wall of fire around the solar system, as they claimed recently. They sure did with Pioneer. No, I'm sorry. One of them frickin' Limobiles, whichever, number 2. Not Pioneer, it was whatever, who cares. But yeah, so they're going to come up with all these excuses, or they should. I would, if I were NASA, I would just kill myself. I really would. I would crash the ISS. I would say that all the satellites have gone down, but we have figured out a way to use cell phone towers to power our cell phones, and potentially high altitude weather balloons that are indeed very stable. And I think I've played a clip of it. But you know what, guys? I'm going to wrap this up. I will say, if you'd like to support this channel, your support is much encouraged and appreciated. Contributions can be sent to www.paypal.me/themorgile or patreon.com/themorgile. Man, thank you guys so much for hanging today. I love you guys. Hey, Daryl Davis, what's up? Growing dank in the Northern Cali. Cali Tree Farm plug, boy. Hey, I do need to see that documentary that you shot, Mr. Davis. Love to see it, man, whenever it comes
Hey, Daryl.
out. Mina says hello.
Yeah, we're going to have to sashay down to your shire and get some long bottom lead.
Yeah, that long bottom lead. That Toby's the finest in the shire. All right. Well, look, guys, I love y'all. I'll see you next stream. Sorry about earlier, and I'm going to be able to do more frequent streams again. I've been off a couple weeks because I had to move.